Chapter 71. Lu Fei's strange behavior. In the Shui Yu country there were a great number of sects and clans fighting for supremacy. Achieving power was not an easy thing to do as the competition was fierce. The Imperial clan was the strongest clan that existed in the whole Shui Yu country. They were so powerful that nobody dared to challenge their authority. There was no room to question the authority of the Imperial clan. Apart from the Imperial clan there are also some other extremely powerful clans in the Imperial city. There were the Yu clan of the Imperial city, the Yu clan and the Wanshou Men clan. Outside of the Imperial city there were also the extremely strong sects which held a great deal of power. The Yun Hai sect and the Hao Yu sect were both strong sects which were outside of the Imperial city's borders. There was also the Luo Sha sect as well as the Ice and Snow Mountain village. There are 8 high officials of the Shui Yu country who represent the strongest and the most gifted young cultivators within the country. Everyone who is within those 8 officials is incredibly strong and has advanced to a high level of cultivation. The future of the country was held by these 8 young cultivators. The Yun Hai sect was a great power, but it did not have anyone who qualified for a position as one of the 8 high officials. Even though a high official was extremely powerful and had an incredibly high status, it wasn't enough to affect the foundation of a sect. However, in 10 or 20 years that may not be the case. The foundation may be strong, but over time it can be shaken. Nan Gongling clearly understood how things worked with the politics of the country. Even if there was no sign of a sect declining in power, what about its future prospects? What if there were no suitable successors to take the place of Patriarch? What if the general power of the sect members declined? If these events happened over an extended period of time, then the end of the sect was inevitable. The effects would not show in the short term, however in the long term it was clear that the sect would fade from existence. This was the case of the Yun Hai sect at the moment. The general level of strength that the young disciples of the Yun Hai sect possessed was clearly in decline. Over the years they were attracting less and less talented individuals. How could Nan Gongling not be worried in such circumstances? This was something which troubled him for every second of every day. The fact that Lin Feng and Han Man stood before him and unleashed such spectacular talent, he has once again regained hope. He could feel that the fate of the Yun Hai sect was changing, and it could possibly have a prosperous future. Lin Feng had incredible fighting power and his talent was truly unfathomable. He was a genius. With more time and dedication to practice, he could become one of the 8 high officials. This would create a bright new future for the Yun Hai sect. With him they would rise in power once again. The Yun Hai sect was going through a period of prosperity during these peaceful times, however if a conflict came about then they would be in a very dangerous position. The sect was currently in decline and its strength paled to that of the past generations. I hope that they can both climb to the top of the hierarchy within the Yun Hai sect, thought Nan Gongling while looking at Han Man on the fighting stage. In the Imperial city, the construction of the holy courtyard of Shui Yu had already started and he now had these talents to nurture. Wasn't this a good omen? Boom! Han Man took another step. In the life and death arena there were waves of yellow sand which were surrounding and covering Wang Han. He was struggling to breathe under such immense pressure. The qi which was being released was so powerful that Wang Han felt like he was being buried alive where he stood. You win. Congratulations on joining the elite disciples, said Wang Han. Wang Han suddenly was able to breathe again. His body felt light and the pressure which was burying him had completely vanished. His eyes were half closed, and voice was filled with disappointment in his lack of strength. He had been defeated. He had been humiliated, but he had also gained valuable insight thanks to the battle with Han Man. Brother, don't be so disappointed. I just exploited the fact that my spirit is very powerful, said Han Man while the qi around his body was slowly disappearing. Han Man looked and sounded honest. It was very hard to find a grudge against such a simple person. He could instantly become friendly with anyone. Thank you, said Wang Han while nodding at Han Man. He turned around and left the fighting stage. The final result was his defeat. That was a humiliation for any elite disciple, and he did not want to stay in the spotlight any longer. Han Man quickly rushed back to Lin Feng and while looking incredibly happy with himself he said, "How was it? I earned everyone's respect, right?" "Not bad," said Lin Feng while smiling and nodding. Han Man had a good grasp of forces which he could control with the help of his spirit. Against somebody of the same level, Han Man clearly had a huge advantage in power and understanding. It would be very hard to find a cultivator on his level which could fight equally with him. Only those who possessed incredible talent would have a chance to defeat him. Lin Feng and the others stayed at the Stormy Gorge and continued to watch the other battles. There was always the chance for a cultivator to gain insight from watching a battle. There is not always such a great opportunity to watch so many battles at once. I would like to challenge Tu Fu today. He is extremely strong. I hope that with my power I will be able to defeat him and join the ranks of core disciples. Han Man had eyes filled with awe at the end of the first round and he wasn't the only one. Many disciples were amazed at the battles they had the opportunity to watch. Tu Fu's battle was too amazing. Tu Fu was much too powerful. He had only used one punch which made even the heavens shake and the fight was already over. Lin Feng, do you have anyone that you would like to defeat within the core disciples? asked Han Man. Me? Asked Lin Feng, surprised. He then shook his head while smiling and said, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Lin Feng really hadn't thought that far ahead. A great majority of the ordinary disciples of the Yunhai sect were only at the Qi layer. If they wanted to become elite disciples, then they would at least need to have broken through to the Ling Qi layer. The first Ling Qi layer was the minimum requirement for elite disciples. The elite disciples who had broken through to the third Ling Qi layer were exceptionally strong individuals. Those who had broken through to the fourth Ling Qi layer would have the qualifications to join the core disciples. However, the core disciples of the fourth Ling Qi layer were considered weak compared to the other core disciple. Those who joined the core disciples also had to go through the same process of defeating one of the current core disciples. However, who were the core disciples? They were the foundation of the sect, and defeating even the weakest of them was not an easy task. Every year, many disciples try to advance during the elite disciple exam. There was only a single chance for a disciple every year. This exam was the only chance they had to move to a new disciple ranking. There were many elite disciples between the first and the fourth Ling Qi layer. Only the ones with incredible talent or battle power could join the core disciples. Lin Feng had 3 spirits thanks to all the suffering he had been put through. He was thinking about difference between elite disciples and core disciples. Even if he joined core disciples, so what? Mo Xie was still an elder and held a huge advantage over him. The first round of the elite disciple exam came to end, and there were many lively discussions happening within the crowd. It was hard for many of the disciples to hold their excitement for the second round, which would be in 3 days' time. All the elite disciples and the core disciples would use all of their power in the upcoming battles, as it would decide their rankings within the sect. Holding the highest ranking within the disciples was an honor for any disciple. Lin Feng didn't want to wait around any longer. He immediately headed towards the practice area for elite disciples. He was now an elite disciple. He needed to get his new disciple robes as well as a certificate of entry into the elite disciples. These were symbolic of the status a person held within the sect. Lin Feng. At that moment, Lin Feng heard a voice coming from behind which made him stop. He turned around and saw such a beauty running towards him. What's wrong? Asked Lin Feng to Lu Fei, who was walking towards him. He was a bit surprised to see her. Can I talk to you in private? Lu Fei looked embarrassed when she looked at Han Man and the others. Talk in private. Lin Feng was really puzzled. What could Lu Fei have to tell him that required to talk in private? Even though Lin Feng's opinion of Lu Fei had completely changed since she had tried to protect him against Mo Xie, his opinion had not changed to such an extent. Were they close enough that they could talk in private? Of course, there would be no problem. Lin Feng, we have an important matter to handle now. We will head off first and you can join us later. Lin Feng hadn't said anything yet, but Han Man had already replied for him. He also hastily pulled Po Jun and Jing Yun away from the couple. Lin Feng was speechless. Since when had Han Man become so cunning? They had an important matter? What did he mean? Going to receive the elite disciple certificate and a new set of robes? Lu Fei was already standing next to Lin Feng and had become very embarrassed. She quickly said, let's move to somewhere private where we can talk. Lin Feng slightly nodded. He was really curious to know what Lu Fei could have to tell him. Lin Feng, do you remember the first time we met? I remember. You almost killed me for no reason on that day, said Lin Feng. That girl's strength was incredible and there was something hidden deep within her. However, she was really too rash and viscous. If you hadn't tried to peep on me and do perverted things, then would have. I tried to kill you, said Lu Fei, who was suddenly in a bad mood. I never peeped on you or had any perverted intentions, replied Lin Feng, who was also growing angry at Lu Fei. On that day, when he had gone into the mountains, it had really been a coincidence. How could she categorically state that Lin Feng was a pervert? Lu Fei saw that Lin Feng wasn't going to admit it. That bastard was really evil. Lin Feng actually thought that Lu Fei was really beautiful, but he did not even know she was there. That was a fact. She really was one of the most beautiful girls in the sect though, so it was understandable that many people wanted to peep on her. Alright, I admit that I was wrong, I misunderstood you. I would like to apologize. Lu Fei was gnashing her teeth and had forced the words out from her mouth. If it was not for her father, she would never have come to Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't understand Lu Fei. He stared blankly at her while trying to understand what had just happened. What are you looking at? Asked Lu Fei. Lin Feng was still staring at her. She was embarrassed and she was blushing, which had caught Lin Feng by surprise. Could it be, did you? Lin Feng was strangely looking at Lu Fei. He was gazing deeply into her beautiful eyes. Did you fall for me? Lin Feng had finally managed to say what had come into his mind. He could not stop all of the thoughts that were rushing through his head. Lu Fei was incredibly strange and tomboyish, but she was beautiful and had an interest in Lin Feng. Lin Feng had never had a girlfriend, so he couldn't help but feel very embarrassed at his current situation. Lu Fei was stunned. She had finally lost her temper and shouted, "You bastard." End of chapter 71. Chapter 72. Provocation. Lin Feng simply shrugged and smiled. He couldn't be blamed for thinking that way because Lu Fei was acting so strangely. Lu Fei was looking at Lin Feng and her heart was pounding in her chest. She couldn't help but gnash her teeth. She had never been so furious, but she had to control herself. There is something I would like to discuss with you, said Lu Fei. She then fell dead silent. Her face had turned red, and she tried to open her mouth but there were no words coming out. What do you want to talk about? Asked Lin Feng, surprised. Do you know who the strongest people are in the Shuiyu country? Asked Lu Fei. Of course, I know, it's the Imperial clan. Lin Feng replied immediately. Lin Feng knew that the Imperial clan were the strongest and there was not a person who would dare contest that. This is why they so easily ruled over the country. Only the strongest person could become emperor and only with power could they control the country. This was a fact. Lu Fei was surprised. She didn't know that Lin Feng was so knowledgeable about the subject. He had responded so quickly without even taking time to think. That's right. In the Shuiyu country the Imperial clan is the strongest. Even though there are extremely strong clans and sects within the country like the Yunhai sect, there is not a single power that would dare to face against the Imperial clan. Lu Fei explained. However, now the emperor has requested some of the outstanding disciples of the Shuiyu country to help develop the holy courtyard of Shuiyu. They will receive the best cultivation resources available, and the best teachers will be available to them. They will develop into incredible powers for the country, and they will become leaders in the future. At that moment, Lu Fei stopped talking and looked at Lin Feng's reaction. Lin Feng looked at Lu Fei while smiling and asked, "What does that have to do with me?" Lu Fei looked at Lin Feng with anger building up inside her. She was cursing at him under her breath. He was extremely smart, and she didn't believe for even a second that he didn't understand what she wanted. So you're not interested in going there? Are you not interested in getting the best profound pills, the best weapons, the best martial skills and agility techniques? Said Lu Fei while trying to convince him. Lin Feng had understood what Lu Fei meant. She was being very obvious with her intentions. However, what he was trying to figure out was Lu Fei and exactly what was in it for her. What was her relationship with the Imperial clan and why would she need to come and recruit on their behalf? When he thought of the day when he had seen Lu Fei with the Kai Shui armored horses, he believed even more than Lu Fei held an extraordinary status within the Imperial city. Lu Fei saw Lin Feng's eyes were sparkling with intrigue. She then smiled and said, "So, how does it sound? Are you excited?" Lin Feng scratched his head while looking at Lu Fei and said with a giggle, "Are there any girls as beautiful as you there?" When Lin Feng saw that Lu Fei was blushing, he laughed and started walking away. Even though the Imperial clan is extremely strong, there are also other clans who are very ambitious. The Imperial clan wants them to hand over their best disciples and go to the holy courtyard. Do you really believe that it will be so simple? After these words left Lin Feng's mouth, it caused Lu Fei to stare at him with a stunned expression. He really was much smarter than she had initially imagined. No wonder he had managed to advance his strength in such a short period of time. He was a real genius. But this bastard was making her lose face. Lu Fei was in a bad mood because of what Lin Feng had said. If she had the chance, then she would definitely defeat that bastard and make him regret everything. That would be her revenge for constantly getting ridiculed by him. She had started following him as he left. Nine Frost Mountain was the name of the place where the elite disciples lived. In the Nine Frost Mountain, there was a gigantic cave which was popular with the elite disciples because of a certain cliff. At the top of the precipice, engraved in the stone were a list of names. Those names were the names of the strongest elite disciples. There were 80 names in total which were carved into the stone. What intrigued people the most is that it looked like a chessboard. Each of the 80 names was like a chess piece which could be moved across the board. Some names would be eliminated, while other insignificant pieces would cross the board and transform into powerful pieces. All of the elite disciples within the sect hoped that their name could be engraved on that board someday. It would mean that they had finally reached the top and would be respected by all. At that moment, Tu Fu's name, which was at the top of the list, was removed. They all understood what was happening. He was one of the first people to become a core disciple and he had even defending his right to be a core disciple. Then, a new name replaced Tu Fu's name on the list of the elite disciples. Wen Ren Yan. His name had appeared there suddenly like a comet which had crashed through to the top position. He had only needed a year and he was already at the top of the elite disciple rankings. Everybody knew of his strength. He had the power to join the core disciples, but he decided to stay as an elite disciple. Everybody knew the reason why he had done such a thing. He did not want to join the core disciples because he was too arrogant and refused to be lowly ranked amongst the core disciples. He would rather rule over the elite disciples than be kicked around by the core disciples. Wen Ren Yan was 16 years old. There were many young disciples in the Yunhai sect who were exceptionally talented. He had never been an ordinary disciple because he had directly joined as an elite disciple. Once he joined the elite disciples, he had been fighting intensively and his name had constantly been rising up in the rankings. A year had passed, and his name was already carved into the top stone on the board. Many people trusted Wen Ren Yan and believed in his power. He had achieved a great deal of accomplishments in the year he spent fighting his way to the top. He could even be compared to people like Linghu Hishan or Fu Tu. Outside of the cave, a group of people had arrived. All of the disciples there were looking at this group with respect filling their eyes. Wen Renyan has arrived. Amongst the group was a young man wearing a white chong pao. He looked incredibly arrogant yet powerful. He had deep blue eyes and had a strangely cold-looking face. This young man was Wen Renyan. Wen Ren, congratulations, said a disciple standing next to him while smiling. The top ranking amongst the elite disciples, that's all I have achieved, replied Wen Renyan expressionless. He glanced at his name on the stone and said, Chen Xing, considering your current strength, you should also have your name carved onto that ranking list. Yes, I will do my best, said Chen Xing while nodding. Chen Xing was the elite disciple that had been defeated by Lin Qian in front of everybody when she came to the sect. Since then, Chen Xing had been practicing harder than he had ever practiced before. He wasn't far from breaking through to the second Ling Qi layer. He was also considered a young genius. He was quite respected amongst the elite disciples. Even Wen Renyan respected him and his determination. Wen Renyan smiled. Immediately after, he glanced at the crowd. His blues were sparkling with a strange light. From today, I declare that Lu Fei is officially mine. If anyone tries to flirt with her, then do not blame me for being ruthless. Everybody sighed when they heard what Wen Renyan had said. He had been interested in Lu Fei for a while, and now that he was the strongest within the elite disciples, he had wanted to prevent others from approaching Lu Fei. Wen Renyan was actually insane to say such a thing, because everybody knew that he had only refused to join the core disciples because he wanted to remain as the top elite disciple. However, there were many strong core disciples who were interested in Lu Fei. In Lu Fei's eyes, Wen Renyan didn't even exist. The entire crowd was speechless when suddenly a loud voice was heard within the crowd. How can you say that Lu Fei is yours when what you say is of such little importance? We want to hear Lu Fei say it herself. Hanman knew that Lin Feng and Lu Fei were together at that moment. He got angry when he heard what Wen Renyan had so boldly declared. Everybody was surprised. Who was that audacious guy who dares provoke Wen Renyan? Does he want to die? The crowd was whispering amongst themselves. Not only was Wen Renyan extremely strong, but he was also respected within the Yunhai sect. Even some of the core disciples didn't dare provoke him. Very good, said Wen Renyan while turning around. His blue eyes revealed his murderous intention. Immediately an image of a poisonous snake shot from his hand. Boom! Hanman's body was thrown against the wall of the cliff. Blood was spilling out of his mouth. His eyes had an insolent expression as if he wasn't going to obey. If you say another word, I'll kill you where you stand. Wen Renyan sounded calm and serene but also firm. Piss off, Hanman said while spitting out blood. He was staring coldly at Wen Renyan and said, Don't think that you're strong because you needed 1 year to reach the top of the ranking. When my brother arrives, he will wipe your name from the list in no time. Who's your brother then? Tell me, Wen Renyan said as his words were filled with disdain. Lin Feng, Lu Fei's boyfriend. Hanman had said this on purpose. After what happened during the exam where Lin Feng had dared to kill an elite disciple in front of everyone including the elders, Hanman was convinced that no one would dare provoke Lin Feng so easily. He was also sure that Lin Feng would not need much time before he had surpassed Wen Renyan. Hanman was convinced that Lin Feng could defeat him in less than a year. Who's Lin Feng? Wen Renyan said that indifferently. He hadn't bothered to go to the exam on that day. He knew that nobody would dare to challenge him because he was one of the strongest elite disciples. Someone who has just broke through to the Ling Qi layer but has already mastered forces. He is nothing compared to you. Chen Xing said full of disdain. Oh, is that really what you think? Suddenly a voice echoed through the silence as two figures appeared in the distance. End of chapter 72. Chapter 73. The Punishment. Suddenly, everybody gazed into the distance and tried to make out the figures of the people who were approaching. The beautiful Lu Fei was approaching. But who was that young man that she was following? What shocked everybody at that moment is that Lu Fei together with this young disciple and they had been alone together. This young man was actually Lin Feng. Many people had seen Lin Feng in the life and death arena as he killed an elite disciple in cold blood, and they made sure to remember his face. Many had made a mental note to not offend this young disciple in the future. The voice which had interrupted them was actually Lin Feng's voice. Could it be that it was true, and Lin Feng is actually Lu Fei's boyfriend? Everybody was thinking about the words of Hanman and they were paying close attention to Wen Renyan. But Wen Renyan still had a calm look on his face as if he was not affected. His blues, however, were revealing his evil intentions. It was clear he would not let this matter rest. So, you are the new little elite disciple, Lin Feng? Said Wen Renyan with a hint of disdain in his voice. He was talking down to Lin Feng and attempting to humiliate him. What surprised him is that it seemed like Lin Feng had completely ignored his presence. He just glanced at him for a second and continued over to Hanman, who was still in a bad condition. Are you alright? I just have a small injury. Don't worry about it, said Hanman while smiling, and now he was also ignoring Wen Renyan. Don't start so many fights. I do not want to see you die, said Lin Feng glaring at Hanman. This simple-minded disciple was a troublemaker. He could not stop himself from causing trouble. A moment before, he had said that Lu Fei was Lin Feng's girlfriend. Lu Fei would be furious after hearing such a thing. That guy is insane. He's saying to everyone that Lu Fei belongs to him, said Han Man, sounding angry. Lu Fei was furious and quickly glanced at Wen Renyan. At that moment, Wen Renyan was frowning. He could not believe that a disciple who had just broken through to the Ling Qi layer could be as insane as to ignore him. Within the Yun Hai sect, nobody had ever dared to provoke him, not even the elders of the sect would ignore him when he spoke. Let me ask, have you been listening to what I have said? Said Wen Renyan. It suddenly seemed like the entire area was growing colder. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng. That guy was an incredible genius who was able to control sword force, but he was far from being able to challenge Wen Renyan. It looked like Wen Renyan was going to have to teach him how large the world truly is. Let him continue to talk with himself. He has a big mouth, so it is easy to ignore him when he speaks. It's unfortunate that you can only ignore him, it would be better if he would stop talking. Said Lin Feng to the others while ignoring Wen Renyan. He continued talking to Han Man. When he says that Lu Fei is his. So what? That is none of my business. Han Man was staring at Lin Feng and was shocked, speechless. Han Man was doing this out of loyalty for Lin Feng. He knew that they were secretly a couple, and he was still trying to hide it. I want to ask you something. Wen Renyan had said this sentence very slowly, emphasizing each word with a voice filled with anger. A strong qi was spreading through the air. In front of the whole crowd, Lin Feng was still ignoring him and causing him to lose face in front of such a large crowd. I heard you, said Lin Feng, turning around his head. He then looked at Wen Renyan and said, You're asking me if I'm Lin Feng, is that right? So you're not deaf, said Wen Renyan while smiling coldly. Since you ask me who I am, it means you don't know me, right? Wen Renyan was staring at Lin Feng, confused. He was asking such an obvious question. Did Lin Feng have a defect in his brain? Such nonsense, said Wen Renyan. Nonsense? Maybe. Since we do not know each other. Why should I waste my time speaking with you? Said Lin Feng as he looked at Wen Renyan and added, What are you going to do about it? When he finished talking, an immense qi emerged and filled the atmosphere. Madness. Everybody was stunned. Lin Feng was actually insane enough to fight with Wen Renyan. That guy was really crazy. He was courting death. Wen Renyan looked deathly pale. It was the first time that someone had dared to talk with him like that. Lin Feng, you are dreaming. If you think you can fight against Wen Ren, you will die for sure. You shouldn't have provoked Wen Ren, said Chen Xing while staring at Lin Feng. Chen Xing, do you think you are a top-ranked disciple? You obviously think that you're a genius, but not so long ago you were defeated by Lin Qian when she had just broken through to the Ling Qi layer. Everybody watched how you lost so pitifully, and yet you call yourself a genius? You are far from a genius in my eyes. Lin Feng said with a calm face, as if he was talking normally, but it had made Chen Xing furious. He had been badly humiliated by a nobody disciple. That guy really has a big mouth, thought Lu Fei while looking at Lin Feng, who had made both Wen Renyan and Chen Xing furious with his words. She was wondering why Lin Feng acted in the ways that he did. You are insulting me and attempting to bully me because I only recently reached the Ling Qi layer. Well, let's solve this problem in the Stormy Gorge in the Life and Death Arena. Do you dare? Stormy Gorge, Life and Death Arena, did he dare? Lin Feng was challenging Chen Xing to a battle in the Life and Death Arena where the rules were more relaxed. In the arena, they would forfeit the protection granted by the sect and could really lose their life. A strong qi was constantly emerging from Lin Feng's body and he sounded extremely confident. Chen Xing was stunned at such actions. Chen Xing was at the second Ling Qi layer and was so strong that he would soon have his name engraved onto the ranking list. But Lin Feng's words had stunned him. How could Lin Feng be so self-confident and arrogant? In the Life and Death Arena, did he dare? He was trying to relax, but his heart was pounding. How can you be so confident in challenging me? Is it because of your sword force? Asked Chen Xing. Sword force is indeed extremely powerful. Yu Hao wasn't weak, but he had been killed from a single strike. Even if Yu Hao had been stronger, the result would have still been the same. I cannot be sure that he used all of his strength during that fight. If he is much stronger than what he has already shown during the fight against Yu Hao, will I be able to fight against him? Chen Xing's thoughts were racing, and he was considering every possible situation. He had a weird expression on his face, he was straining his face and he looked like an idiot. He had already lost against Lin Qian in front of a large crowd. He could not afford to lose face again. So ridiculous, and you used to be the top-ranked ordinary disciple? You think you're important because you became an elite disciple with such little strength? You haven't made any progress and you are still weak in cultivation and willpower. A strong cultivator is firm and persistent. A strong cultivator takes the path of cultivation seriously. On the path of cultivation, relying on other people's success will never allow you to reach the top. Lin Feng saw how ugly Chen Xing's face looked. The qi surrounding Lin Feng's body shot towards Chen Xing and started to apply pressure on his body. Lin Feng started walking slowly towards him. He was walking very slowly, one step after the other. Chen Xing was scared to death. He could barely breathe under the pressure of Lin Feng's qi and he could feel a deathly chill running down his spine. A strong cultivator is firm and persistent as strong and takes the path of cultivation seriously. These words were resonating in Chen Xing's head. He used to work harder than anyone else to cultivate, and everybody used to think he was a genius because of that. Then when he started to associate with Wen Renyan, his speed had dropped, and he was slacking. He felt inferior to Wen Renyan and had lost his motivation to grow stronger. Was he able to regain his former glory and self-confidence that he used to hold so dear? Chen Xing wasn't the only who felt affected by Lin Feng's words. Other disciples in the crowd who had heard his words were feeling bad about their own choices. He is speaking very wise words, and his words are having a profound impact on everyone who hears him. Lu Fei was also affected by Lin Feng's words. He really was a genius in so many ways. He was so unconventional and unrestrained, he really had nothing servile in his personality. Chen Xing, come on. Are you not ashamed of yourself? Provoking others while being rude and then not daring to fight? If you refuse, then not only will you prove that you are not a genius, but you will also prove that you are a coward. Lin Feng said while he continued walking towards Chen Xing. An incredible force was oppressing Chen Xing's body and soul. Coward, coward. That word was resonating in Chen Xing's brain, and it was like torture for him. His face was completely distorted in pain. Suddenly, Chen Xing shouted loudly. Some disciples had to cover their ears. Everybody was staring blankly at the scene that was occurring in astonishment. How powerful was Lin Feng? Lin Feng didn't even need to fight. Chen Xing had only said a few words and was already about to collapse because of the pressure that Lin Feng was applying. How could he fight when he could not even speak under the pressure? At that moment, the entire crowd was looking at Lin Feng and only saw that he had a cold smile on his face. He looked like a dangerous, ferocious beast. His eyes looked so dark that it gave the impression that he was no longer human. Lin Feng had abilities similar to that of the imaginary demon. He had a mystical power. He had used that power on Chen Xing. Piece of trash, said Wen Renyan. His azure blue eyes were staring angrily at Lin Feng. Even though you're a little bit stronger than Chen Xing, you're still extremely weak in comparison with me. You are nothing but a bug which I can crush at any time. Now, kneel down and beg me for mercy, or I will crush you here and now. Wen Renyan said in an ice-cold tone filled with killing intent. Lin Feng had said that it was useless to rely on somebody else's power. He was going to teach Lin Feng a lesson and make him kneel down before him. End of chapter 73. Chapter 74. Confrontation. It seemed like Lin Feng hadn't heard Wen Renyan. He actually didn't care about what he was saying. Lin Feng was used to people who talk big but, in the end, did not have the strength to match their arrogance. Hanman, is he the one who injured you? Asked Lin Feng to Hanman. Wen Renyan was indeed the person who had attacked Hanman and caused him to be injured. Yes, said Hanman while nodding. He then whispered in Lin Feng's ears, Wen Renyan is not even close to the strength of Tu Fu. So now that Tu Fu has become a core disciple, he is currently ranked first within the elite disciples. He's strong and has a fierce temper. I'm not in a hurry to get my revenge on him. I believe that in a short time, you will definitely be able to defeat him. He was strong? An elite disciple who had broken through to the third Ling Qi layer could be ranked amongst the top disciples with no difficulty. Those who had broken through to the fourth Ling Qi layer were strong enough to fight against the core disciples of the sect. If Wen Renyan had broken through to the fourth Ling Qi layer, then he definitely wouldn't have stayed as an elite disciple and would have become a core disciple. So, at that moment he was most likely at the peak of the third Ling Qi layer. He would not have had a breakthrough yet to the fourth Ling Qi layer. A cultivator of that level was indeed very powerful, but that did not mean that he was invincible and could provoke who he wished. Lin Feng was confident that if he had to fight with him then he would be able to win, and if he was not able to fight against him then he could retreat unharmed. No need to discuss any more. This is the only chance I will give you. Even if you're a genius, I can take your life at any time. Now kneel before me. Wen Renyan thought that he was the strongest and his arrogance was clear. He truly did not know how vast the world was. He thought that because Lin Feng had just become an elite disciple that he was weak and could be bullied. To Wen Renyan, who would even dare to fight against some core disciples, he was really nothing but a bug. Even though Lin Feng understood a lot about forces, he was too weak. There would be no problem to defeat Lin Feng with a single thought. Wen Renyan had an extremely strong spirit. It would in no way be weaker than the sword force of Lin Feng. Wen Renyan had an unbreakable faith in the strength of his spirit. There is no need to think it over, said Lin Feng while shaking his head, and then while giving a cold smile, he said, even though you want me to kneel down and beg you for mercy, I have no reason to obey you. Everybody was stupefied by Lin Feng's words. He was aggressive and would not retreat no matter who he faced. He truly had the demeanor of an emperor. Wen Renyan was the top-ranked elite disciple. He was respected by everyone and feared for his strength. What did he think of Lin Feng? He only just become an elite disciple and was no better than those bugs called ordinary disciples. Alright, Wen Renyan said with an evil smile which was filled with hatred. His azure blue eyes were emanating a strong killing intent which made other disciples tremble in fear. This is terrible. Wen Renyan has become furious. Some disciples in the crowd knew that this had become a very dangerous situation. They were very scared of Wen Renyan. Nobody dared provoke him because of his strength and also because of his temper. Lin Feng also sensed the cold air which was emanating from Wen Renyan's body. Lin Feng didn't sense it in the same way though. He felt that there was a diabolic and evil intention held within his eyes. Wen Renyan, what do you intend to do? You are not in the life and death arena, said Lu Fei while moving in front of Lin Feng to block the way. Wen Renyan said that Lu Fei was his and declared that no one else could attempt romance with her. In fact, they hadn't known each other for a long time, but Lu Fei had already come to an understanding of what kind of person he really was. He looked strong and confident on the outside, but he was like a venomous snake. He did not have the honor and morals which other had. Lu Fei still wanted Lin Feng to go to the holy courtyard of Shuiyu. Therefore, she didn't want him to die from his current situation. In Lu Fei's opinion, Lin Feng wasn't weak but could never fight against Wen Renyan. If he fought against him, he would surely die. You are mine and yet you protect this young man. Are you not afraid to make me angry? Wen Renyan looked hideously evil at that moment. It looked like his azure blue eyes alone could kill if you gazed into them for too long. They clearly revealed his murderous intentions. I've never said that I was your girlfriend or that I was your property. Stop dreaming. I would never be in a relationship with a guy like you. It's actually the opposite. Lin Feng is my boyfriend. If you touch him, I will never let you off. Lu Fei was staring at Wen Renyan looking extremely serious. Oh my, so that's how it is. Lu Fei admits that she is Lin Feng's girlfriend. What a lucky bastard. He captured the heart of the most beautiful girl within the Yunhai sect. Everybody was staring at Lin Feng and were filled with envy and jealousy. Han Man, who was still injured, was looking at Lin Feng with eyes revealing an immense amount of respect. He looked like he truly worshipped and adored Lin Feng. He knew that Lin Feng not only had a strong body, but his heart was the strongest that he had ever seen. Core disciples had never been able to conquer Lu Fei's heart, and then suddenly Lu Fei admitted to being the girlfriend of his sworn brother. What great news! Lin Feng had no idea what was going on and had been confused by this whole situation. When had this all happened? When had they become a couple? Lin Feng then looked at the crowd who was surrounding them. They were looking at him with evil eyes. Damn it, that girl once again, she had caused him trouble. Well, I will just have to kill him, said Wen Renyan, who looked even more furious than before. Do you dare? Shouted Lu Fei furiously. In the Yunhai sect, there is nothing that I, Wen Renyan, don't dare. Wen Renyan then laughed an evil laugh as if he cared for nothing in the world. Is that so? We will see about that, said a firm and steady voice. A silhouette which had appeared in the distance suddenly shot towards the cave of the elite disciples. How presumptuous. Wen Renyan, do you think that you're the patriarch of the sect? Said a voice which was coldly laughing. The man who had just arrived was looking at Wen Renyan with a look filled with disdain and anger. Yu Shui, this none of your business and doesn't require you to get involved. Wen Renyan was also looking at the man with disdain in his eyes. Wen Renyan is really presumptuous and audacious. How dare he disrespect an elder? Some disciple who was watching the scene were shocked. Shui Yu was an elder of the ordinary disciples. There were not many within the elite disciples who dared to disrespect him. Lin Feng and his friends came to receive their elite disciple certificate and their new disciple robes, and you suddenly threatened to kill him. What would other people think of our Yunhai sect? I am an elder, how could I not care? Indeed, this territory is under my control, so you have nothing to do here. An ice-cold voice was heard inside the cave, and then a middle-aged man wearing an indigo Chong Pao suddenly appeared from the shadows. Elder Lu, said Wen Renyan to the man wearing the indigo Chong Pao. He was also an elder. He was responsible for giving the elite disciple certificates as well as the elite disciple robes to the new disciples. He was also in charge of the rankings within the disciples. Lu Yuan nodded at Wen Renyan in a friendly way, but he wasn't as friendly to Shui Yu. Shui Yu, you should stay where you belong. What are you doing here causing trouble? What do you mean? Asked Shui Yu while staring at Lu Yuan. What do I mean? This is my territory. We don't need you to concern yourself with our affairs. You mean that within your territory, Wen Renyan can kill other disciples as he wishes, including other elite disciples? Even if he killed a few weak ones, who would even care? Here the weak do not deserve to live and only the strong can survive. Shui Yu, you're causing too much trouble by being here. Everybody was surprised. They wouldn't have thought that the issue between Lin Feng and Wen Renyan would lead to an argument between two elders of the sect. However, Elder Lu's words were harsh and cruel. According to Elder Lu, Lin Feng was inferior to Wen Renyan, so even if he got killed by him, it wouldn't be a problem at all. He was even saying that Lin Feng did not deserve to live. How laughable. Lin Feng also understood what Elder Lu meant. The though had made him smile, but his heart grew colder than ice. He had become an elite disciple and had to come pick up his certificate and his robes, but the one who was in charge of giving him these things ended up saying he wasn't strong enough and deserved to die for being inferior to Wen Renyan. What was that supposed to mean? Regarding Shui Yu, the first time Lin Feng had seen him was when Protector Bei had passed the responsibility of protecting the Xingchen Pavilion onto him. He was clearly one of Protector Bei's trusted friends. Elder Shui, said Lin Feng suddenly. Shui Yu turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Thank you, said Lin Feng while smiling. Lin Feng then looked at Wen Renyan and Lu Yuan and said, Elder Lu, Lin Feng came to pick up his certificate and new disciple robes. Lu Yuan glanced at Lin Feng with a look of disdain. He then looked at Wen Renyan. Not only was Wen Renyan very strong, but his background was also terrifying. Because he appreciated Wen Renyan, he also decided that he was Lin Feng's enemy. Elder Lu, Lin Feng came to pick up his certificate and new disciple robes. Lin Feng said it even louder than before, sounding extremely strict and firm. You really don't know who you are talking to, said Lu Yuan while glancing at Lin Feng and then shouted, Get lost. Chapter 75. The Yunhai sect has abandoned me. Audacious. Lu Yuan, you're really being unfair. Lin Feng is now an elite disciple of our Yunhai sect. You must give him his robes and his certificate. This is a rule within the sect. Would you be daring enough to break the sect rules so blatantly? Said Shui Yu in an ice-cold tone. Elder Shui, Lin Feng said in a soft voice. Shui Yu turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Today, I have come to pick up my certificate and robes as an elite disciple, but Elder Lu doesn't want to let me. He insulted me and told me to get lost. Elder Shui had witnessed all these things as they happened, right? Asked Lin Feng. Indeed, said Shui Yu nodding. He didn't understand Lin Feng's point. Since I now have a witness that I am being treated unfairly, I have had enough, said Lin Feng while smiling coldly. If they refuse me entry into the elite disciples, it means that the sect has chosen to abandon me. When he finished talking, Lin Feng quickly turned around and went towards Hanman. The whole crowd was stupefied and didn't understand what Lin Feng meant. Don't think that you can run away because Shui Yu is here to defend you. Next time that I see you, I will kill you. Wen Renyan knew that he couldn't kill Lin Feng in front of Shui Yu, but next time they'd meet alone, he'd definitely kill Lin Feng. I'll wait for you to try. Lin Feng's words were clear even though the distance between them had grown. He had already started walking away and his silhouette was gradually disappearing. Shui Yu frowned. He looked at Lu Yuan with an ice-cold glare and said furiously, Lu Yuan, I cannot believe your ignorance today. You will truly regret your actions today. You will do nothing but regret these actions. When he finished talking, Shui Yu brushed the dust from his sleeve and left. How ridiculous was Lu Yuan acting? Did he really think that supporting Wen Renyan was the right thing to do? That it would be useful to him in the future? Did he not understand how greatly the protectors and the Patriarch valued Lin Feng? If he had truly known the situation, then he would not have had the same attitude when dealing with Lin Feng. I never regret anything that I do, said Lu Yuan, showing everyone that he was not scared of any repercussions, and then said to Wen Renyan, What a pity that we had to let him go. Don't worry, he will die sooner or later, said Wen Renyan. His words were like those of a venomous snake. He was gazing with a venomous stare into the distance where Lin Feng had left. When Lin Feng left, Lu Fei had surprisingly followed him. Saying that Lu Fei was his girlfriend and his possession had caused him to be humiliated after everything that Lin Feng and Lu Fei had said. Lin Feng. Lu Fei quickly caught up with Lin Feng and shouted out to him. I just remembered that I had things to do and that I had to leave with Po Jun. When Han Man saw that Lu Fei was coming towards them, a huge smile appeared on his face, then he quickly pulled Po Jun and ran ahead to give the couple some privacy. Judging from his actions, you would hardly believe he had been injured only moments ago. Lin Feng's eyes rolled. That sneaky guy, how could he suddenly have become so crafty? Lin Feng, please be careful next time. If you see Wen Renyan, please avoid a conflict with him. Stay away from him at all costs. That guy is very dangerous. Lu Fei warned Lin Feng. She knew that Wen Renyan would try to kill Lin Feng if he had the opportunity in the future. I thought that you hated me. How come you suddenly care about me now? Said Lin Feng while laughing as if he had ignored Lu Fei's warning. Lu Fei was speechless. That guy was surprisingly in the mood to make jokes. She knew how terrifying Wen Renyan was in the status that he held. I just don't want you to die because you have to go to the holy courtyard of Shui Yu, that's all. Said Lu Fei while staring at Lin Feng. Is that so? But I have never said that I was going to the holy courtyard of Shui Yu. Lin Feng continued. Now that I think about it, I do remember that you said something about you being my girlfriend? I just said it because of the situation, said Fei resolutely while staring at Lin Feng without blinking. That guy had dared to bring up an embarrassing situation again. She just wanted to show to everyone that Wen Renyan was a liar. She wanted him to stop creating lies about her and humiliate him at the same time. Can you really just say such things just because of the situation? Asked Lin Feng, whose eyes were rolling. His hands started moving towards Lu Fei. What are you doing? Lu Fei felt a chill down her spine and vigilantly looked at Lin Feng. That guy. You're my girlfriend now. I should start behaving like a proper boyfriend would with his girlfriend. As your boyfriend, I have certain duties to fulfill, said Lin Feng as he was moving towards Lu Fei in a peculiar motion. You bastard. Dream on. Lu Fei's face was flushed completely red. She was furious and embarrassed. She immediately stormed off. That bastard, what did he mean by a boyfriend has duties to fulfill? And he then dares say he's not a pervert. Lin Feng observed Lu Fei as she walked away. Her body was incredibly graceful with each movement. He had a tender smile on his face. His impression that Lu Fei was a bad person was disappearing with each day. He now had a very good impression of her and had started to grow fond of her. She was actually very cute. There was no one who could deny that she was incredibly beautiful and grew more attractive with each day. How come I never noticed this before? Lin Feng thought with a smile on his face. When he had first arrived in this world, he thought it was a very cold and ruthless world. His determination, willpower and strength were the only things he could rely on. Now he was beginning to feel familiar in this world and he was gradually becoming more relaxed. Sometimes, he was a bit unconventional or a bit insolent, but he had to make others respect him through force or he would be bullied for the rest of his life. He has chosen to never serve beneath anyone and be bullied again. Lin Feng's determination and willpower was truly incredible for a cultivator. He was proud of his sword skills and there was a determination to improve his sword skills while growing stronger. He wanted to grow stronger. A pleasant and warm light was illuminating the ground. On that day, the Yunhai sect looked absolutely desolate. There was almost nobody that could be seen. But in a distant place it wasn't desolate at all, within the Stormy Gorge. The Stormy Gorge was filled with all members of the Yunhai sect. Again, they looked like a colony of ants, they were all being pushed shoulder to shoulder. The elite elders and the ordinary elders were not sitting inside the gorge, they were now upon a high seating area which could see the life and death arena from above. This seating area was grand and imposing to all those who looked upon it. It was entirely made out of stone. The view made Lin Feng sigh in admiration. He remembered the stadiums in his previous life and thought that the seating area in the Stormy Gorge was even more fantastic. The Yunhai sect usually didn't use this seating area often, but this time they wanted to show everyone how important the Elite Disciple exam was. It was the beginning of the second round of the Elite Disciple exam. The Ordinary Disciple ranking list had 100 names, the Elite Disciple list had 81 and the Core Disciple list only had 36 names. But it was clear to everyone that the Ordinary Disciple ranking list would lose a great deal of power when the strongest Ordinary Disciples joined the Elite Disciples. Indeed, the Ordinary Disciple ranking list would lose the strongest disciples. This is why people particularly enjoyed watching the Elite Disciple and Core Disciple ranking. By looking at the ranking lists, it was possible to understand how powerful each of the disciples were. By understanding how powerful the disciples were, it was possible to know how strong the sect currently was. After all, the disciples were the future of the sect. Nan Gongling had suddenly stood up. Everyone had quickly become completely silent. Nan Gongling slightly smiled and then started talking. But at that moment, he looked surprised and frowned. He was staring into the distance at a storm of violent clouds on the horizon. There was a strangely violent air approaching. The sea of violent clouds rushed across the sky like a wave crashing into the ocean. Nan Gongling, that is Chu Qing from the Hao Yu sect. He is carrying a group of people with him. The clouds were crashing through the sky and making terrifying booms. The air was shaking with the pressure. The sound of crashing was so loud that it entered the ears of the disciples and seemed to pierce through into their souls. How terrifyingly powerful. Everybody was staring in amazement looking at the group of people who were approaching. They looked like they were surfing on the violent clouds. At the same time, the sky was growing cloudy, and snowflakes seemed to be falling from the clear sky above. Han Shui Tian of Ice and Snow Village Mountain has come to pay a visit. There was a powerful voice which was echoing through the snow. The voice was accompanied by a sudden strong snowfall. Everyone started feeling cold. Han Shui Tian was the patriarch of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Duan Wu Tian and Teng Wu Shan have also come to pay a visit. More voices were heard within the snow. A storm of raging clouds was heading towards them on the horizon and snow was filling the atmosphere around them. Everybody was shaking from the cold and also the fear of the power which was being displayed. The scariest was that cold air was filled with a terrifying sword chi. It was extremely sharp and seemed like it was ready to pierce through flesh at any moment. However, the source could not be seen. In the distance there was a black shadow moving through the sky. It was a colossal monster which was completely black from head to toe. With each flap of its wings, it created a vacuum in the air. That colossal pitch-black monster had a length of a few dozen meters and about 4 meters thick. The people who were riding it were wearing chong paos which blew elegantly in the wind. That wild beast was a pythonfish which could fly through the sky and swim to the deepest ocean. Its scales were pitch black and it had gigantic wings on its back. It was a very strange creature and mysterious creature. What a horrible-looking monster. Everybody was stupefied staring blankly at that pythonfish. It was swallowing clouds and blowing out a dark fog with each breath. What terrified the crowd even more was that around his huge wings was the same incredible amount of sword chi. No one knew where this terrifying sword chi was coming from. Suddenly everyone could see a gigantic sword flying in the air. There was a silhouette standing atop the sword with an arrogant smile. End of chapter 75. Chapter 76. Brutality. Nan Gongling's expression was gradually becoming ice-cold. The expression in his eyes was as sharp as a sword as he looked at the crowd in front of him. Chu Qing was the patriarch of the Hao Yu sect. He was Chu Zanpeng's father. Han Shui Tian was the patriarch of the Ice and Snow Mountain village. Teng Wu Shan was the vice-patriarch of the Mo Shou sect. Duan Tian Lang was the prince of the imperial family and was also Duan Han's father, who had come to the Yun Hai sect recently and been thrown out. All these people belonged to some of the most powerful sects and clans. They had come during the elite disciple exam, and it did not feel like they had come with good intentions. Patriarch Nan Gongling, all of these people coming to visit on the same day, this is a bit strange. Duan Tian Lang was the person standing on the gigantic sword. He was wearing a magnificent plate of armor which made him look like a majestic ruler. The gigantic sword began to lose altitude and moved towards the viewing platform, accompanied by the sound of the atmosphere tearing under its pressure. At the same time, Chu Qing and Han Shui Tian were also slowly moving down to the platform while looking extremely condescending. Next to Duan Tian Lang, Duan Han was staring at Nan Gongling looking indifferent. Nan Gongling had recently humiliated him and told him to leave the Yun Hai sect. Now he held a grudge against Nan Gongling and wanted to teach him a lesson. Oh, it is an honor for me to receive Duan Tian Lang within the Yun Hai sect. Please feel at home, said Nan Gongling with a cold smile across his face, and he then added, it is only that we didn't expect you to bring so many people. What brings you all to my Yun Hai sect? Not so long ago, that boy, Duan Han, already visited you. The purpose of his visit was also very clear to you. His Majesty sees the things that we cannot. Therefore, he is preparing to finish building the holy courtyard of Shui Yu. Thus, he requires some of the most outstanding disciples within the country. All of the sects have already replied and chosen some of their disciples except for the Yun Hai sect. When he finished talking, Duan Tian Lang smiled and didn't add anything else. Nan Gongling was making a strange face. Chu Qing, Han Shui Tian and all these people were extremely powerful. Their children were also extremely talented. If they sent disciples there, then they would be under the control of the imperial clan and as a consequence, would not belong to the Yun Hai sect in the future. But Chu Qing noticed that Duan Tian Lang had been talking in a very calm and soft tone, which was why Nan Gongling hadn't understood what he meant. Alright, what does Duan Tian Lang propose to do? Asked Nan Gongling. Since Nan Gongling hasn't been willing to hand over some of his best disciples, I personally came on behalf of His Majesty to select some myself. Today is the day of the elite disciple exam within the Yun Hai sect. I'll be able to see your strongest disciples with my own eyes and select them one after the other, said Duan Tian Lang in a strict manner. The facial expression of every member of the Yun Hai sect suddenly changed. How savage! What kind of place did they think the Yun Hai sect was? What gave them the right to choose geniuses as they pleased? What happens if I don't agree? Said Nan Gongling as his voice grew colder. Nan Gongling will agree just like all the other patriarchs had to agree, said Duan Tian Lang as he was filled with confidence. He was talking as if his word was law, and no one could refute him. Nan Gongling isn't hurrying to select disciples because of the elite disciple exam, but he shouldn't disagree too fast either. The holy courtyard of Shui Yu will not accept mediocre disciples. It will only accept the best and most outstanding disciples of the entire Shui Yu country. They will give them access to the best profound pills, the best weapons and the best teachers available. Resources will be almost endless. There will also be the possibility to learn the most powerful skills available. They will be able to choose between an enormous amount of martial skills, and they will truly become the pillars of the country. Duan Tian Lang was saying those words to all the disciples of the Yun Hai sect. He was trying to tempt them with the vast wealth. Gaining access to an unlimited quantity of weapons, pills and skills all disciples of the Yun Hai sect would obviously tempted. Who would refuse such a wonderful opportunity? They came to the Yun Hai sect for the sake of cultivation. They wanted to become powerful. If the holy courtyard of Shui Yu could provide them with a better cultivation environment as well as much better cultivation facilities, what reasons did they have to stay in the Yun Hai sect? At that moment, many disciples became restless. Many disciples were prepared to give their utmost to be accepted into the holy courtyard. How despicable! Nan Gongling cursed Duan Tian Lang, who was trying to cause a rift within the Yun Hai sect. It was truly a cunning and ruthless plan. What Nan Gongling found even more intolerable is that they were clearly provoking the Yun Hai sect with these actions. I'm curious to see who would dare to oppose the Yun Hai sect, thought Nan Gongling. He then looked at Duan Tian Lang and said, since Duan Tian Lang wants to watch the elite disciple exam, I will allow you to stay and watch. The ranked battles for the ordinary disciple and the core disciples are postponed for another day. Today, only elite disciples can fight. The crowd burst into an uproar when they heard Nan Gong, but a short instant after, they understood why he had made that decision. The ordinary disciples were too weak, so the Yun Hai sect would lose face. The core disciples were the heart of the Yun Hai sect, and he could not afford to lose these disciples. There wouldn't be much time before a core disciple could become a new pillar within the sect. In addition, it wouldn't be wise to show the strength of the core disciples to the unwelcome guests. Therefore, showing the elite disciples was the most suitable decision. Duan Tianlang was smiling. Would Nan Gongling's actions make any difference? Elite disciples, go into the life and death arena and make a line in the order as indicated by the ranking list, said Nan Gongling. The elite disciples, whose name was in the list of the ranking list composed of 81 disciples. The entire crowd was staring at them with admiration. They would have the chance to bring honor to themselves and the sect. I will also change the rules of the second round of the elite disciple exam. If you want to be in the ranking list, you must challenge someone who is already on the ranking list. If you win, you will be ranked. No disciple can be challenged twice. Nan Gongling continued to talk. The crowd burst into an uproar again. A multitude of people was disappointed and had given up all hope. This round was a chance for disciples to test themselves in their own strength. However, because of the new rule, the exam had changed. Many disciples would no longer have the chance to test themselves against the elite disciples. These battles will all be fought to the death. There are no restrictions. Boom. That shocking sentence was like a bomb exploding in everyone's head. No restrictions, to the death. If they challenged the stronger of the elite disciples, then they could lose the battle and their life along with it. There was no option to give up, they would be slaughtered. A victory meant being able to see one's name in the elite disciple ranking list. Losing had serious consequences to the extent that an opponent without mercy could end your life. That was a big price to pay for losing. Dangerous. Gambling with one's life at stake is too dangerous. I'll just try again next year. A countless number of disciples were shaking their heads after the previous statement. Many of them agreed on the fact that risking one's life in order to join the ranking list was not a worthwhile risk. Lin Feng, the Patriarch, is really cruel. I just joined the elite disciples, but I am also only at the first Ling Qi layer. On that list composed of 81 names, the weakest have already broken through to the second Ling Qi layer. I have no chance for winning at all. Han Man was smiling wryly. He thought he was going to get the chance to fight as much as he could during the elite disciple exam, but hadn't expected that things would turn out this way. Lin Feng had a different feeling. These new rules would probably lead to incredible battles. Not only were those who were going to join brave, but they would also be the most outstanding members of the sect. Only those outstanding disciples would risk their life. That is what Nan Gongling wanted to see. He wanted to show these people how strong his disciples were. All the 81 disciples on the ranking list are now on the fighting stage in the life and death arena. Now you can challenge any of them and go on to the fighting stage of the middle. When Nan Gongling finished talking, he sat down and observed Duan Tianlang. Luo Lai is willing to challenge Yu Lin to a battle. A silhouette stepped onto the fighting stage. Because it was impossible to challenge the same person twice, the first person had a huge advantage over the other disciples as he could challenge someone who was very low in the rankings. Yu Lin was the 81st ranked disciple. At that moment, Yu Lin had an ugly facial expression. Being the first one to be challenged, that was such a humiliation. Whoever chooses to challenge us ranked disciples, death will be your punishment, said Ren Wenyan, who was standing in front of everyone else on the fighting stage. He had made it clear to all disciples with his cold tone that the ranked disciples would kill all their challengers. Agreed, said Yu Ling as he jumped onto the fighting stage. He immediately started to unleash all of his skills using his full power. Even if Wen Renyan hadn't said, Yu Lin had already planned to kill his opponent. The stormy gorge became particularly calm. The crowd was watching the fighting stage within the life and death arena. The fighting stage was entirely red with blood. Lying on the fighting stage was a pile of corpses. All of these corpses were the corpses of the challengers. They had all lost and been killed without exception. They did not remove the corpses but left them there as a reminder to anyone who issued a challenge. This would be the place where they entered their eternal rest. Losing your challenge would mean certain death. The lesson was cruel and bloody. Gradually, those who were eager to challenge these ranked disciples were slowly dwindling. The disciples who had been challenged were the ones at the bottom of the ranking. From that moment, if someone else wanted to challenge these ranked elite disciples, they had to challenge those who were even higher in the ranking list. As expected from the ranked elite disciples, none of them was mediocre. Even Yu Lin, who was ranked 81, was exceptionally strong. Nan Gongling was still sitting indifferently looking at the fighting stage. That bloody lesson was going to show these young disciples how hard, cruel and brutal the path of cultivation was. On the path of cultivation, only those who had a persistent heart, as well as a determination and willpower as solid as rock, could march forward courageously. Those who had a fear of blood would not last long on the path of cultivation. Those who were too kind-hearted would be killed for their foolishness. This was not a world to be underestimated with light-hearted ideals. A bunch of crappy cultivators trying in vain to be ranked is enough to make you all so desperate and hopeless? Wen Renyan said while pointing at the 5 corpses on the stage. He then glanced evilly at the entire crowd, looking extremely. He was mocking every elite disciple who was not within the ranking. He was the top-ranked elite disciple and none of these 5 people were worth his time. All the elite disciples were furious, but at the same time they felt powerless. They couldn't believe Wen Renyan's harsh words, but he was a genius whose power was acknowledged by everybody. There were very few people who would dare to provoke him. Patriarch, I think that you can establish the new ranking list now. They are all pathetic and hopeless. Wen Renyan was looking at Nan Gongling as he hurled insults at the other elite disciples to make himself look better. Nan Gongling looked around at the crowd and slightly nodded. Wen Renyan was really highly arrogant, but he was right, the Yunhai sect didn't have that many geniuses. Inevitably, he would sooner or later become one of the pillars of the sect. Ridiculous, you truly are laughable. A loud voice was heard spreading through the atmosphere. It made the crowd shiver. Wen Renyan was surprised. He looked around to see who had said these words to him. You again, said Wen Renyan with murderous intentions in his eyes. What is so ridiculous? You're the top-ranked elite disciple. Yet you are still extremely presumptuous. You look down on other disciples while calling them names, calling them crap, but at the beginning when you started practicing cultivation, were you as strong as now? Were you born as an unrivaled master of the Lin Qi layer? Have you ever considered that to others, you might be the crappy cultivator? Lin Feng had a cold smile on the corner of his mouth as he continued to hurl insults. Wen Renyan was extremely arrogant. Lin Feng had said these words to make him aware that the world is bigger than what he knows. Wen Renyan was like the frog stuck in the well, he did not know how vast the sky was. End of chapter 76. Chapter 77. The Yunhai sect is polluted. Crappy cultivator? Suddenly, someone dared insult Wen Renyan and call him a crappy cultivator? The entire crowd was staring deeply at Lin Feng. They were stupefied because Lin Feng was still wearing the clothes of an ordinary disciple. Could it be that he was still an ordinary disciple? Nan Gongling was also surprised. He had taken great pleasure in openly announcing to the sect that Lin Feng had become an elite disciple. Why was he still wearing the clothes of an ordinary disciple? Within the Yunhai sect, Nan Gongling had a lot of admiration for 4 disciples: Linghu Hishan, Tu Fu, Wen Renyan and Lin Feng. At that moment, Linghu Hishan was constantly impressing him with his actions. Fu Tu was becoming stronger and stronger with each passing day. Wen Renyan seemed to have an infinite potential. Regarding Lin Feng, he was still a bit weak, but he had made a display of his abilities and his future was certainly going to be brilliant. These disciples also regarded Nan Gongling as a good patriarch. Therefore, Nan Gongling hoped that there were no tensions between them. The tensions existing between Lin Feng and Wen Renyan would probably not be to his liking. What gives you the right to talk to me like this? In front of me you will always be a crappy cultivator and like before a piece of trash. Wen Renyan azure blue eyes were evilly staring at Lin Feng. You're really narrow-minded. You're that kind of person who doesn't know who is good or bad, who has abilities and who doesn't, especially who to call names and those you should never dare to call names. Lin Feng's words were getting more and more profound as well as harsher, which somewhat amused the entire crowd. They found him fascinating. He could not see the difference between heaven and earth. Wen Renyan was respected by everyone and he surprisingly dared disrespect him. He was truly reckless and immature. Are you trying to say that you are more qualified than me? Asked Wen Renyan as if he had just heard the funniest joke of his life. I may not be more qualified than you, but I don't go around randomly insulting people and calling them piece of trash. I am careful of who I offend, said Lin Feng, slowly walking towards the life and death arena, towards the central fighting stage. He looked extremely calm and serene. You're the top-ranked elite disciple and you despise the other elite disciples. You say that they are hopeless. If there was a core disciple here to call you trash, would you dare still act so arrogantly? Core disciples are obviously stronger than me, but I will surpass them eventually, so they don't have the qualification to call me trash. People like you will never be able to surpass me or even catch up to me. Wen Renyan was endlessly arrogant. The Yunhai sect disciples felt so furious that their cheeks were burning in anger. They were not strong enough to rebuke him as much as they had wanted to. Wen Renyan was an incomparable genius within the sect. Ridiculous. Lin Feng had already arrived on the edge of the fighting stage of the life and death arena. He then climbed up onto the stage. In the eyes of many people, you are indeed a once-in-a-lifetime genius. However, in my eyes, you are a fool and nothing more. I don't understand why the Yunhai sect respects you and even attaches even the slightest of importance to you. When Lin Feng finished talking, everybody was stupefied. Not only was he humiliating Wen Renyan, but he was calling into question the actions of the sect. How audacious. You really want to die. Wen Renyan had a demonic expression in his eyes, and he slowly started walking to the fighting stage. Very slowly, one step after the other. He looked like a demon ready to unleash his fury. Nobody slacks when it comes to the elite disciple exam. They all want to become ranked for the glory that comes with it. Those who are not ranked rely on the weaker disciples to become ranked. Those who are ranked rely on those at the top of the list to protect order. This is the way that things worked. This is the way of the world. Even if they lose while attempting to rise to new heights, it is not a humiliation. There's nothing to be ashamed of, but Wen Renyan, you are evil. You don't even respect those who died today. You are truly heartless. Being the top-ranked elite disciple and insulting the other elite disciples, calling them worthless even after their death. That is a cruel humiliation for our fellow disciples who died attempting to rise to glory. That's unfair. Heartless, cruel and unfair. The Yunhai sect, including all of our fellow disciples, has helped you become what you are now. If the Yunhai sect ever has a big problem, then will it be able to trust you, considering that you don't care about killing your fellow disciples or seeing them murdered? The most important thing is that even if you are extremely strong, will the Yunhai sect even be able to benefit from it? While Lin Feng was saying these profound words, the atmosphere had gone completely silent and still. A cruel, heartless and unfair yet extremely strong disciple. Did the Yunhai sect need him? Boom! A violent and ice-cold qi emerged like waves on the fighting stage. The temperature rapidly began to drop. So ashamed that you cannot control yourself? Too bad, I'm not done talking yet. Lin Feng wasn't frightened at all and was smiling coldly. Lin Feng moved forward to the center of the fighting stage and looked at Wen Renyan with disdain. The continent of the 9 clouds is so incredibly vast. Wen Renyan, what other places have you even ever been to? How many real geniuses have you met in your life? And you dare to talk like you were unrivaled under the heavens. You dare to be extremely arrogant and humiliate other people while being so insignificant. A cultivator of the 3rd Ling Qi layer is considered as relatively weak compared to the rest of the world. In the Shuiyu country, there are cities filled with stronger cultivators than you with talent that you could only dream of. I don't understand how you are more qualified than anyone else. I do not understand what gives you the right to act in such a way. Wen Renyan, you are like a mouse which can only see an inch, a frog at the bottom of a well, that's all. You really know nothing about the world. You know not how vast the sky is or how deep the ocean is. You know nothing. Lin Feng's words astonished everyone. Even Nan Gongling and Duan Tianlang were moved by Lin Feng's words. Everything Lin Feng said was profound and showed how wise he truly was. Wen Renyan was shaking from head to toe with fury. Lin Feng's words were piercing to the extent that even his soul was shaking in anger. He could see that everyone was staring at him with looks of disdain. It seemed like Lin Feng was determined to punish him using his words. He was gazing into the distance. Lin Feng had not said a single lie and had revealed the truth of his nature. An unfair and cruel young disciple like this, adored and respected by other disciples, respected by the elders, a source of inspiration for ordinary disciples. Could it be that the Yunhai sect was only worth this much? Was the Yunhai sect only worth this much? Everybody in the crowd felt awkward. Lin Feng said that Wen Renyan was arrogant. What about him? Saying that the Yunhai sect was only worth so much, wasn't saying this very arrogant of him? What an audacious ordinary disciple. Daring to humiliate the entire Yunhai sect. You really want to die, said an elder while looking at the fighting stage. That was precisely the elder, who had humiliated Lin Feng, refusing to give him his elite disciple's robes and certificate, Lu Yuan. There are many people like you in the Yunhai sect. It is becoming more and more polluted each day with your stupidity, said Lin Feng, who wasn't scared and just smiled coldly. He then said to Lu Yuan, so, you think that ordinary disciples are not worthy and that elite disciples are above others because they are strong? You 5, you consider yourselves to be strong and powerful. Yet you dare to ruthlessly murder your fellow disciples. How powerful you must be to murder an already defeated opponent. Have you ever thought of the fact that there are people who are much stronger than you and they might treat you in the same way? Have any of you stopped to consider that before you murdered a fellow disciple for wanting to become stronger? Lin Feng was staring at the 5 ranked elite disciples who had just killed their challengers. Even though the Yunhai sect has rules, they are still useless as they are not enforced. All that is enforced is to destroy fellow disciples and humiliate them. I challenge you 5 murderers. I think that nobody will have any problems with this. Shall we listen to what the Patriarch has to say? Lin Feng stopped talking. At that moment, everybody was stupefied. Lin Feng wanted to challenge 5 ranked elite disciples. Madman. Lin Feng was obviously insane. Even though Lin Feng understood how to use sword force, these 5 cultivators were of the 2nd Ling Qi layer. They could kill him with a single strike. But Lin Feng surprisingly dared to challenge 5 ranked elite disciples at once. How insane was he? Han Man's mouth was wide open. He was speechless. That guy. At that moment in the crowd, Lu Fei was also shocked. Her beautiful eyes were staring at Lin Feng, looking worried. She thought that even though Lin Feng was powerful, he was still much weaker than the geniuses standing before him. That's why she wanted Lin Feng to take his time and practice. With time he could become an incredibly powerful person. His name would definitely appear on the ranking list in the future. However, if he fought right now, he may lose his life. But was Lin Feng going to achieve a miracle? That bastard, how could he challenge 5 ranked elite disciples at the same time? Could it be that he didn't know the difference between their strengths? Bastard. Lu Fei was cursing secretly in her heart. She was incredibly worried about Lin Feng's safety. There was no chance of them letting Lin Feng leave the arena alive. As far as Nan Gongling was concerned, he was very surprised. Suddenly challenging 5 ranked elite disciples? Did he not even understand that this might not go the way he planned? He had personally declared Lin Feng as an elite disciple. How come he was still wearing his ordinary disciple robes? 5 is too many. Start with 1 first. Nan Gongling didn't want Lin Feng to take such great risks. He was also worried about 2 of the disciples that he respected the most. The tensions existing between the 2 of them was not to his liking. No need. The five of you, hurry and climb up onto the stage. Lin Feng sounded like he was an immature brat who knew nothing of the world. He was talking down to his opponents as if they were nothing. Do you want to die? I will show you. One of the five was laughing. Lin Feng was already dead in his mind. He had dared challenge the five of them at once. Quickly get up there. I am sick of looking at his smug face. Wen Ren Yan interrupted him. He kept thinking about what Lin Feng had said, that he was cruel, heartless, arrogant. That he would be of no use to the sect. He had a deep and bitter hatred for Lin Feng. The five disciples hurried up because of what Wen Ren Yan had just said. The five silhouettes climbed up onto the fighting stage. Suddenly, a strong qi pressed down onto Lin Feng. Remember the name of the one who is going to kill you, Yu Yang. An enormous flame suddenly appeared, illuminating the entire arena. It was growing much bigger and hotter, as if it was being fueled by everything around it, to endlessly burn everything. Another gigantic flame emerged out of his head and rose into the atmosphere. The other four disciples all started using their own skills, each more powerful than the last. This was the combined strength of five disciples of the second Ling Qi layer. Even if they didn't release their spirit, their combined strength was absolutely enormous. Even people who were not on the fighting stage could sense it. It looked like Lin Feng was going to be killed by the pressure enveloping his body before they even had a chance to attack. Boom, 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 boom. 8 extremely powerful strikes covered the sky and crashed down onto the atmosphere, shattering it instantly. Each strike rushing forward looked like a stampede of armored horsemen. The 8 strikes of desolation mastered to perfection. The crowd was amazed by the attack and its boundless strength and power. The sound of the 5 disciples' attacks colliding with Lin Feng's attack filled the atmosphere. Die. Yu Yang threw himself towards Lin Feng. Flames were unceasingly coming out of his body, even stronger and hotter than before. When he had seen Lin Feng using the 8 strikes of desolation, he was surprised, as he hadn't thought that Lin Feng was so strong. But he thought that a perfectly mastered 8 strikes of desolation, when facing the combined power of 5 ranked elite disciples, it was still far from being enough to compete with them. Die. The whistling sound of the sword spread throughout the atmosphere. The atmosphere was glowing with the power of sword force. It looked resplendent. It was so quick that all that could be seen was a trace of light between them. Before the light slowly faded to the sound of Lin Feng sheathing his sword. Yu Yang's body was still diffusing in immense flame. He even had a flame coming from his head. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, a small line had appeared on his neck, out of which blood started to endlessly spill. Sword unsheathing. They had all almost forgotten that Lin Feng's strong point was when he was using his swords. He was better at using swords than his fists. There was an incredible amount of sword force contained within the arena, and the sword was still glowing with power. Lin Feng's 8 strikes of desolation attack a moment ago had been very powerful, but he had relied on the strength of the first Ling Qi layer and had attacked all of the 5 ranked elite disciples. Yu Yang seemed to have forgotten that Lin Feng was an expert at using swords and that he could use both hands. That was the price to pay for forgetting that. For underestimating Lin Feng, the small price of a head would be collected. Was that sword unsheathing? Quite a lot of disciples knew the attack. They were astonished though, because they thought sword unsheathing was a useless skill, but in Lin Feng's hands, it was so powerful. It was fast as light. In his hands it was an incredibly destructive skill. That sword, how breathtaking, how stunning. No wonder Protector Bei appreciates him so much. Give him any skill and he can accomplish miracles with it. Lin Feng was now even higher within Nan Gongling's esteem. He was most likely only at the first Ling Qi layer and could already master 8 strikes of desolation to perfection, as well as sword unsheathing. It was hard to believe that he had just become an elite disciple when looking at his skills. End of chapter 77.
You are listening to Peerless Martial God audio on light novel Aloud.
Chapter 78. The Patriarch's Mistakes. The 4 other disciples had survived the 8 strikes of desolation attack. Standing side by side, they were looking at the dead body lying on the fighting stage, yet they all were still calm. Yu Yang was ranked 71st. He was the strongest of the 5 disciples, but Lin Feng had killed him with a single strike. If it had been any of the other 4, they would have been unable to withstand that strike. Lin Feng, who was stronger than Yu Yang, had the potential to kill each of them. When thinking about what had just happened, they were paying more attention while staring deeply at Lin Feng. A slight murderous chill had filled the air, and as it was carried by a small breeze, on contact it would make the disciples shiver. When I take your life, don't forget to remember that you cruelly took the life of others before. You will equally be killed by someone stronger than you. This was the fate chosen by you. You will now have to deal with the consequences of your actions. Lin Feng finished speaking and started to walk forwards. Sword energy had started to fill the atmosphere and condense on the tip of his sword. A cold sweat ran down the backs of the 4 elite disciples. They could feel exactly how powerful the sword force contained within the sword was. Was Lin Feng already a sword master? How could he master sword force to such a high level? A strong qi filled the air within the arena, and with each step it was growing stronger. The 4 disciples could feel that the terrifying sword force and qi were growing stronger with each step made by Lin Feng. It seemed like this force was absorbing the qi from the atmosphere. We cannot delay this for even a second longer. My qi is getting weaker while the sword force and the qi contained within his sword continue to grow stronger. If we wait too long, we are doomed. The four of them were looking at Lin Feng vigilantly and understood that the situation was getting incredibly dangerous. At the same time, they had all started rushing towards Lin Feng from different directions. Die. An incredibly violent sword force started to press down against the four other disciples. His hand slightly moved and suddenly a radiant light shot through the atmosphere. Suddenly 2 sprays of blood shot into the air like bloody arrows and turned into an endless stream. His sword was so deadly that with each move another life was taken. 2 bodies fell heavily onto the ground making a soft thud. When rushing towards Lin Feng, the remaining 2 disciples had chosen to move slightly slower than the others who had just died. They had betrayed them and used them as a shield. But did they think that they were going to survive? Everybody in the crowd was shaking in fear, especially some of the elite disciples. How had Lin Feng become so strong? Not only was the qi he was using of the first Ling qi layer, but he had also managed to kill ranked elite disciples with a single strike. He was fighting 5 elite disciples and rather than being at a disadvantage, he had already killed 3 of them. Sword of Nirvana. It's an average skill of the Zon level. That skill enhances the power of each sword strike and also enabled the cultivator to greatly increase his power when using sword force. Many people were looking at Lin Feng and his swordplay. It seemed like he had chosen skills which are usually ignored by other disciples. Many people thought that the Sword of Nirvana was a useless skill. However, they didn't know that the Sword of Nirvana was actually an extremely powerful attack which had the potential to match that of a high Zon level skill. However, it required an advanced understanding of the world and elemental forces. It was a very hard skill to practice. This was the reason why so many people had not considered this skill. But Lin Feng could already master that skill to perfection and fully benefit from the enhanced power contained within his sword. Escape. The remaining 2 thought to themselves. Escape was the only thing which remained within their minds. They couldn't fight against Lin Feng anymore. They both turned and attempted to retreat into different directions. Die. Lin Feng's eyes were very sharp. His sword started to glow, and an extremely powerful sword qi spread throughout the atmosphere and then pierced down through the atmosphere. It was aiming directly at each of the remaining 2 disciples. When the qi pierced through their bodies, they both heavily collapsed onto the floor. The names of these 5 disciples had now disappeared from the stone on which the ranking list was engraved. Sword of Nirvana. How powerful! What a terrifying sword force! How strong! Many of the ordinary disciples and even elite disciples were looking at Lin Feng with adoration filling their eyes. No wonder that he had dared to provoke Wen Ren Yan. Lin Feng's abilities and natural talent was much higher than that of Wen Ren, but his cultivation was lower due to less time practicing. With enough time he would definitely be stronger than Wen Ren Yan. Lu Fei's pretty eyes were wide open. She was shaking at what he had just witnessed. That bastard had killed 5 ranked elite disciples? It seems like I'll never be able to get my revenge and defeat him. Lu Fei was thinking. Her main goal was to get stronger and defeat Lin Feng. But she wouldn't have thought that the lowly bastard was even stronger and more talented than she had initially thought. It seemed like it would be impossible for her to take her revenge in this lifetime. But Lu Fei refused to stop working hard as one day she might have the chance to gain the advantage again. Nan Gongling was making a wry smile while looking at the fighting stage. That guy killing 5 extremely talented ranked elite disciples without any hesitation. Patriarch, even though they were fairly strong disciples, they were exterminating their fellow disciples so ruthlessly. Maybe they would be a calamity for the sect in the end. Mo Xie moved and whispered something to Nan Gongling. Nan Gongling looked at Mo Xie and seemed to be really disappointed. He then said, when these 5 disciples slaughtered their fellow disciples and when Wen Ren Yan approved it, why didn't you say anything at that moment? Patriarch, how could Lin Feng? Started to ask Mo Xie. Alright, I have a pretty clear idea of everything that is going on at the moment. Nan Gongling was annoyed for being interrupted Mo Xie. Mo Xie had no choice but to step back. He couldn't help but look at Lin Feng as he still hoped in his heart that he would get the chance to kill him. Mo Xie wanted to kill Lin Feng more with each passing day. He couldn't bear being in the Yun Hai sect while Lin Feng was still breathing. Lin Feng. Nan Gongling was looking at Lin Feng who was standing on the fighting stage with a smile on his face. Patriarch. Lin Feng turned around and looked at Nan Gongling who was standing up. It was already clear to you that your strength would enable you to win these ranked battles. But before joining, wasn't there something you needed to do? Asked Nan Gongling with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Lin Feng made him feel even more gratified each day. Not only was Lin Feng extremely strong, powerful and naturally gifted, but he was also polite. He wasn't arrogant at all. Lin Feng was stubborn, but he fought for his convictions. Considering how talented and strong he was, he still acted as if he was an ordinary person. On the other hand, he could understand things and draw conclusions, like when he had said that cultivators who had reached the Ling Qi layer were actually weak when considering the whole continent of the 9 clouds. Lin Feng was also thinking about his future and thought that he could climb up within the hierarchy at some point and occupy a high position in the country or even in the continent. What? Asked Lin Feng. Put on your elite disciples' robes. Nan Gongling laughed. Lin Feng was really an unconventional genius. Wearing his old ordinary disciple robes in the presence of extremely important people such as Duan Tianlang wasn't appropriate. Lin Feng had a smile filled with a hidden meaning on his face. He shook his head and said, I will not put on the elite disciple robes and I will also not become a ranked elite disciple. If I fought on the fighting stage of the life and death arena, it was just to show these few people how ignorant they were. Nan Gongling frowned. He was puzzled and thus asked, what is that supposed to mean? Can you please explain? Patriarch, ordinary disciples don't count as genuine disciples of the Yunhai sect and they are able to leave the sect as they wish, correct? Lin Feng's words made Nan Gongling's heart pound like mad. He was very confused but didn't show anything and just said, correct. Patriarch, I hope that you can forgive me for this, but from this point forwards I am no longer a member of the Yunhai sect. Lin Feng's words stunned a great multitude of people. Lin Feng wanted to leave the Yunhai sect? What kind of joke was that? Lin Feng was standing on the fighting stage within the life and death arena like a warlord adored and respected by everyone, but then he suddenly said he would leave the sect. How were people supposed to feel after hearing these words? How could they not be stunned? Everybody wanted to understand why Lin Feng would act in such a way. They needed explanations. An insane laughter emerged. Duan Tianlang was laughing and laughing. He then looked at Nan Gongling and said, the Yunhai sect has to go through some hardship, I see. How horrible for you to have to say goodbye to such an amazing disciple. How amusing. It's really funny. Lin Feng, right? You can come to the holy courtyard of Shui Yu where you will receive everything that you need to become an even stronger cultivator. Lin Feng, my sect, the Ice and Snow Mountain Village usually only accepts cultivators who possess an ice or snow spirit. Today, I can make an exception and accept you. If you are willing to join us, I will make you a core disciple right away. Same for our Hao Yu sect. If you want to join us, then I can arrange that you will be a core disciple. A few of the powers were trying to make Lin Feng join their sects in the presence of the entire Yunhai sect, which made them furious. The cheeks of the Yunhai sect members were burning. They found themselves feeling incredibly humiliated at such actions. I will think about it, said Lin Feng in a detached tone while smiling. What a little bastard. If he doesn't die now, then the entire Yunhai sect will be humiliated as well as its dead disciples, shouted Mo Xie furiously. He was smiling coldly in his heart though. Lin Feng was going to get in trouble because of his own actions. Shut the hell up, shouted Nan Gongling furiously, which stupefied Mo Xie. Mo Xie was stunned when he saw that Nan Gong had a cold smile on his face. Lin Feng, 3 days ago, I personally made you an elite disciple. You used to be eager to become an elite disciple. What has happened? Why would you want to leave the Yunhai sect and rebel against it? Nan Gongling was struggling to remain calm. It wasn't easy to see a genius who wanted to leave the sect. Could it be that other members of the sect had threatened him that if he didn't leave, they would kill him? Rebel against it and leave? Patriarch, the word rebel is not really appropriate. In fact, it is the Yunhai sect which has already abandoned me. In the sect, it seems impossible for me to earn my place. Explain, said Nan Gongling, who was full of doubts. First, I would like to ask the Patriarch a few questions. Is it possible? Of course, you can. Patriarch, as an ordinary disciple, one has nobody to learn from. One can only rely on oneself. Is that right? Asked Lin Feng. That's right, said Nan Gongling while nodding. In fact, this was the way it had always been. Even elite disciples who received cultivation teachings from elders were extremely small in number. Patriarch, as an ordinary disciple, one can only access the first floor of the Xingchen Pavilion if one wants to learn new skills and agility techniques. All of these skills and agility skills are of the yellow level. One can access these skills and agility techniques anywhere else. Many places provide these skills and techniques. Is that right? That, right, said Nan Gongling, nodding again. Since it's that way, everything that I've been learning until now, all the progress that I've made on the path of cultivation, would it be wrong to say that it is all only due to my hard work and that I learned everything alone? Therefore, since there are no strong ties between the Yunhai sect and me, would it be wrong to assert that the Yunhai sect means almost nothing to me? That it is almost useless for me to be a Yunhai sect member? When Nan Gongling heard Lin Feng's words, his face changed, and he went pale. The entire crowd also found themselves pale at the thought, but nobody could deny what Lin Feng had said. At that moment, Nan Gongling nodded again and said, you are right, the Yunhai sect means almost nothing to you, but you are a Yunhai sect member after all. Leaving because the Yunhai sect has given you nothing is the wrong reason. It's illogical. However, if you want to leave for other reasons, because of your own personal interests, then it would definitely be ungrateful. Patriarch, please wait until I finish talking. Go ahead, said Nan Gongling. The first time that you and I met was here in the life and death arena. I was unpopular and nobody knew me. I was a nobody. Chu Zanpeng came with Lin Qian. They wanted to take me away, and because I was only an ordinary disciple, Elder Mo Xie wanted to hand me over to them very quickly. At that moment, you didn't know that I wasn't as weak as everyone thought. If I hadn't been able to stop you from expelling me from the sect, then I would most likely no longer be a sect member. Is that right? I made a huge mistake on that day, said Nan Gongling, admitting his fault. Everyone was touched and moved. Nan Gongling was an open-minded individual. Patriarch, when the flood of ferocious beasts happened, while I was there hunting and not bothering anyone, Mo Xie, who profoundly hates me, attacked me again because I was a mere ordinary disciple. He tried to hand me over to the extremely dangerous ferocious beasts. He tried to kill me. When people saw that I hadn't died, they started to believe in my strength, but Mo Xie, as before, didn't get punished at all because I was a simple ordinary disciple. I am a bit weak. I'm not worth it. Is that right? Nan Gongling was speechless. That was indeed the second time that he had made a big mistake. If Lin Feng hadn't been strong enough, he may have died because of Mo Xie. At that moment, Nan Gongling was staring at Mo Xie. Lin Feng wanted to leave the Yunhai sect and Mo Xie looked like he was refuting any responsibility. That was my second big mistake, admitted Nan Gongling for the second time. Lin Feng, I want you to know that Protector Bei was furious because of that issue. He even injured Mo Xie because of that. He almost killed Mo Xie at that moment. You have a privileged place in Protector Bei's heart. I think that he would be devastated if you left the Yunhai sect. End of chapter 78. Chapter 79. No compromise. Protector Bei cared so much about Lin Feng that he had nearly killed Mo Xie? Nan Gongling wasn't trying to avoid talking about taboo subjects as there was too much at stake right now. When he said that, many elders made a strange face. They all knew what kind of person Protector Bei was, and surprisingly, he cared so much about Lin Feng? Not too far behind Nan Gongling, there was another elder who made a very strange face. It was Lu Yuan. Fool. No wonder Shui Yu had protected Lin Feng in front of the ranking list. No wonder he took action to stop me. Lu Yuan was making a depressed face. He would have never thought that Lin Feng had such a terrifying background. He was protected by Protector Bei. He suddenly understood why Shui Yu had told him that he was going to regret his actions of that day. Lin Feng was also moved. He didn't know that after what had happened with the imaginary demon, Protector Bei had become so furious that he had tried to kill Mo Xie. Lin Feng felt bad because he was unable to return the favor, and the one person that he really appreciated was Protector Bei. Lin Feng was reluctant to leave the Yunhai sect because of the protectors who had shown him such kindness. He also had some really good friends such as Hanman, Jing Yun, Protector Bei as well as Protector Kong, and he would miss Lu Fei a little too. Even with the matter concerning Protector Bei, Mo Xie is an elder who believes that he is above everybody else and frequently abuses his power. This is a fact. In addition, 3 days ago when I went to pick up my elite disciple robes and my elite disciple certificate, Wen Renyan tried to kill me, and he attacked my friends. Wen Renyan is also a Yunhai sect disciple. I will of course not blame the Yunhai sect for this, but Elder Lu Yuan was there and did nothing to prevent it from happening. But Lu Yuan is a Yunhai sect elder. Not only did he not try to prevent it from happening, but he also said I should die because I wasn't as strong as Wen Renyan. Is everyone in the sect, who is not as strong as Wen Renyan or even stronger, supposed to die? All of this is the truth. When the confrontation was over, I asked for my elite disciple robes and certificate twice, but Lu Yuan just replied with one phrase, "Get lost." When Lin Feng finished talking, everybody understood what he meant. It was all because he was still considered as an ordinary disciple and because he hadn't been able to get his elite disciple robes and certificate. This had all happened because of another elder within the sect abusing their power to punish him. Lu Yuan had used his power as an elder to attempt to win favor with Wen Renyan by oppressing Lin Feng. At that moment, everybody was staring at Lu Yuan. He was shaking from head to toe in fear. His entire body felt like a giant weight was pressing down on him. Would he have acted the same if he had known that this would happen? Lu Yuan, is what Lin Feng said true? Nan Gongling's tone was indifferent, but he still sounded firm and imposing. He would not tolerate if Lu Yuan lied in this situation. Patriarch. Lu Yuan was looking down at the ground. He didn't dare look at Nan Gongling. At that moment, he infinitely regretted what he had done. What had happened because of him? He had provoked Lin Feng because of Wen Renyan. However, was Wen Renyan going to help him today? He had to face the consequences of his actions alone. When Nan Gongling saw Lu Yuan's reaction, he immediately understood what had happened. There was no need for more explanations. Everything that Lin Feng had said was true, and he even kept calling himself an ordinary disciple. What a tragedy. Alright, you have a lot of authority, but I respect everyone who can become one of the elite disciples with their own power. When you told him to get lost, you were indirectly telling me to get lost, right? I would never dare. Lu Yuan couldn't help but lower his head and look down at the ground. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He was only an ordinary elder within the sect. He did not hold any special rank or status. He wasn't as strong as other elders either. Mo Xie and Lu Yuan were not comparable. Mo Xie would try to kill Lin Feng every time he laid eyes upon him. I will never forget this. Nan Gongling sounded indifferent, which made Lu Yuan panic. He did not know what Nan Gongling intended to do with him, which is why he was terrified. He feared the unknown punishment he would receive. Nan Gongling looked at Lin Feng and couldn't help but reveal a wry smile on his face. Each time they had met, someone had wanted to kill Feng and an elder of the sect had wronged him. Patriarch, today, you have to understand me and what I had to go through. I don't know when Mo Xie will try to kill me again. I also don't know exactly how many people like Mo Xie and Lu Yuan there are in the sect. Even if an elite disciple is a high status within the Yunhai sect, it is still lower than that of an elder. Much like all the times before, if an elder want to kill me, he can do it freely whenever he wants, as if I am nothing but a piece of trash that they can dispose of at any time. This is all that we disciples mean to the sect. Every single word Lin Feng said was resonating deeply in everyone's heart. Everything was true, so nobody could deny anything that he has said. Nan Gongling was also unable to refute anything which was just said. Lin Feng, what do you want me, Nan Gongling, to do? Nan Gongling was intently staring at Lin Feng while saying these words. Everybody was astonished. Because Nan Gongling wanted Lin Feng to stay, it seemed like he had completely put aside his status of patriarch. It even sounded like Nan Gongling was begging Lin Feng to stay. In fact, all of this is not happening because of you. It is happening because in this world, strength and power are the most important things. Without strength or power, then your life is not valued. This is exactly where the problem lies, and it has deep roots within the sects. When Lin Feng saw how Nan Gongling was handling the matter, he had a good feeling. As a patriarch, he forgot about prestige and glory and was losing face, but he didn't care. He knew that apologizing a few times and admitting one's faults was the right thing to do. That way, Nan Gongling showed that he loved and cherished all of his disciples. He did not protect his face and understood he had been wrong. Patriarch, you already told me that only those who are strong and powerful can be respected and are considered as important members, but have you ever thought that outstanding disciples, just like everyone else, had to start from the bottom while being called worthless? Everyone within this world, no matter how powerful, was at one point a low-leveled cultivator. All of us never stop progressing and each person has their own pace. Imagine if low-level cultivators with an incredible potential think that they are not important at the beginning because they did not progress as fast as others. If they think they mean nothing to the Yunhai sect, then how discouraged will they be in their future cultivation? How are they supposed to have faith in the sect once they become strong? How can they believe they will ever be considered as important and that they will be cherished? Lin Feng's words made Nan Gongling think about the sect itself. Indeed, strong disciples had also all started from the very basics, but they were noticed by the sect only once they made a display of their own abilities, only once they stood out. Some of them were considered so weak initially that they were targeted, much like Lin Feng, and even when they became strong, those who hated them continued to target them. The same punishments are applied no matter who breaks the rules, regardless of whether it is an ordinary disciple, an elite disciple, or even an elder who breaks the rules. That's the only way to live in harmony and advance together. There should be many cases where elders have randomly killed disciples. If the rules are broken, the violator, no matter who he is, should be punished. Disciples and elders should be punished the same way. The violator, no matter who he is, should be punished. Nan Gongling looked perplexed. Indeed, in the continent of the Nine Clouds, strong cultivators also had to abide by the rules even if they had higher status or power. Why did this not apply within the Yunhai sect? Nan Gongling realized that he had made a lot of mistakes. Outside of the sect, there were rules for everyone, but what about the Yunhai sect? If it did not change, then the same as what happened to Lin Feng would happen again. There were a few cultivators who were not respected when they were weak but actually had an infinite potential. Once they were strong, how were they supposed to respect the sect if they hadn't been respected before? That guy is really a genius. He's so fascinating and wise. He has a lot to teach, thought Nan Gongling as he was looking at Lin Feng, and then said in a very solemn tone, "You have just taught me and made me realize a great deal. Lin Feng, if someday you were to be one of the leaders of the Yunhai sect, it would definitely enter a period of prosperity and glory. I really hope that you will stay." Lin Feng would someday become one of the leaders? Everybody was puzzled. Did Nan Gongling's words have a hidden meaning with further implications? Lin Feng shook his head. He didn't really care about these things, he just wanted to make everybody understand the error of their ways. He had a certain potential and could understand a lot of things, but it maybe wasn't all that was needed to become a good leader. Patriarch, I don't feel like leaving the sect. I just want everybody to understand how ignorant and cruel they are behaving. I also want to have a reason to stay. Lin Feng's words weren't as cold and sharp as before. Even Nan Gongling, Mo Xie and Lu Yuan felt calmer at that moment. Even if he stayed in the Yunhai sect, Lin Feng wouldn't devote himself to the sect in the future. However, he admired and had a lot of esteem for Nan Gongling for the actions that he had taken today. Besides, leaving the Yunhai sect wasn't required. He just needed a reason for him to stay. Lin Feng, I will prevent others from bullying and threatening you again. No need to say that I will even more do my best so that they don't try to kill you or that they make false charges against you. Nan Gongling promised. This is for the future. What about what happened before? All those people who have bullied and threatened me, said Lin Feng. Was this really justice? My words were not devoid of substance. I will cripple Lu Yuan's cultivation and he will not be an elder anymore. He will also be expelled from the sect. Nan Gongling's words were sharp and poignant. Everybody was astonished. Nan Gongling was going to cripple an elder's cultivation because of Lin Feng. This was a clear warning to everyone within the sect that things were changing. Patriarch, please forgive me, said Lu Yuan, who turned deathly pale when he heard Nan Gongling's words. Crippling his cultivation and expelling him from the sect would make him turn into an existence even weaker than a normal person. How was he going to survive? He would have no reason to live anymore. Your crimes are unforgivable, said Nan Gongling firmly. Lu Yuan's cultivation had to be crippled for Lin Feng to find his peace of mind. Wen Ren, save me. Lu Yuan knew that Nan Gongling wasn't going to take back his words. He was unable to make Nan Gongling change his mind, so he shouted these words to Wen Renyan. But at that moment, Wen Renyan was trying to find a way to deal with Lin Feng. How could he care about Lu Yuan? He coldly glanced at Lu Yuan and then ignored him again, which made Lu Yuan feel like he had been betrayed. Heartless and unfair, thought Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan understood what Lin Feng had meant. Wen Renyan did not care for anyone but himself and was not someone who would care about any past ties. Lu Yuan had now understood that it was useless to back Wen Renyan, but he had made Lin Feng suffer a lot and it was too late for regrets. Lin Feng, are you satisfied now? Asked Nan Gongling. Lin Feng looked at Nan Gongling with a calm face and shook his head. Patriarch, it seems like you continue to forget about someone. Nan Gongling smiled wryly while looking at Lin Feng. This guy was really stubborn. Everybody was stunned at what they had just heard and then they all looked at Mo Xie. They obviously understood that Lin Feng meant Mo Xie should be the next person to be punished. If it wasn't Mo Xie, who else could it be? But many people had thought that Lin Feng would be satisfied just because Nan Gongling had taken action on his behalf. Nan Gongling had asked him if it could be considered enough, which was a hint that he should consider the whole problem as solved. After all, Mo Xie was an important person within the sect. Not only is Mo Xie an elder with extremely high status, but his father was a great elder. He had a lot of power and influence within the sect. If Nan Gongling punished Mo Xie, he would indirectly be punishing his father as well. Nan Gongling was in a very critical situation. But for Lin Feng, there was no compromise. His words were like a sword which intended to behead Mo Xie. End of chapter 79. Chapter 80. The Sword Force. Mo Xie looked at Lin Feng with an ice-cold look which was filled with killing intent. This brat really didn't know anything about power and status. Did he think that just because he was a genius that he could get Mo Xie into trouble? That is ridiculous, said Mo Xie firmly. Patriarch, Duan Tianlang and the others are here to watch our elite disciple exam. We should continue without delays. Mo Kanglan had been sitting there all along and finally opened his mouth. His eyes had a certain chill emanating from them. He remained silent about the events as the situation was still not clear to him. Protector Bei had tried to kill Mo Xie? He was furious? After all the years that he had spent in the Yunhai sect, Protector Bei had tried to kill Mo Kanglan's son because of this disciple? Could it be that Nan Gongling wanted Mo Xie to kneel down and admit his faults in front of everyone that was present just because of that young disciple? When Nan Gongling heard Mo Kanglan, he could not help but continue to smile wryly. If Mo Kanglan hadn't been there, maybe that Nan Gongling would have punished Mo Xie, but Nan Gongling had joined the Yunhai sect after Mo Kanglan. Mo Kanglan was a senior member of the Yunhai sect. Nan Gongling could penalize Mo Xie to make Lin Feng feel better, but he wouldn't dare to interfere with Mo Kanglan. Nan Gongling was in a dilemma. As a patriarch, he really had to think and properly analyze situation. He was caught between a rock and a hard place. Lin Feng, let's continue with the elite disciple exam and discuss that problem later, alright? When Lin Feng heard Nan Gongling, he clearly understood that his status was still not high enough. An elite elder who had a father who was a great elder, they were more important than a junior disciple even if he was a never-seen-before genius. But Mo Xie needed to be punished for what he had made Lin Feng go through. Did Lin Feng still have to submit to humiliation and keep being bullied because he was weak? If Mo Xie didn't get punished, then he would continue to humiliate and threaten Lin Feng or even try to kill him, because he knew that Nan Gongling would never do anything against him because of his father. Lin Feng shook his head. He looked more determined than ever. Even though he was weak, he was still a human being and a disciple of the sect. He deserved dignity and honor like everyone else. Mo Xie definitely wanted to kill Lin Feng and he had tried to kill him a few times already. If Nan Gongling didn't try to do what Lin Feng wanted, then Lin Feng would continue to be bullied by Mo Xie and other with high status within the sect. Mo Xie would keep thinking that he could do anything without having to bear the consequences for his actions. Patriarch, I understand that Mo Xie's status is high within the sect and that his father is even higher and more important, but does it mean that they can keep bullying and threatening me? Why would I stay within the Yunhai sect if I am to remain in constant danger? Lin Feng was being extremely firm on this point. Mo Xie had to be punished for his actions. There was no other alternative that Lin Feng would accept. The atmosphere in the stormy gorge was completely silent. Everybody was watching the events occurring in suspense. Lin Feng or the elite elder Mo Xie, everyone wanted to know whom Nan Gongling was planning to choose. How stubborn. Many people were smiling wryly inside. Lin Feng was being so firm and determined that Nan Gongling had to decide then and there. How stubborn. This is ridiculous. An extremely loud voice spread throughout the atmosphere. It was an elite disciple who was also present at the current events. He was actually a ranked elite disciple, and he was ranked 21st within the power rankings. It's really a bunch of nonsense, Lin Feng. Elder Mo Xie has an important status in the sect and he's extremely strong. What do you think you can do? Mo Xie humiliated and accused a simple ordinary disciple of crimes, so what? You still dare open your filthy mouth and talk nonsense. I am really ashamed to be a member of the same sect as you. I feel dirty and humiliated. The young man had an ice-cold tone and dared say that Lin Feng's words were nonsense. When Mo Xie heard that disciple speak, he had a big smile on his face and looked at that disciple with a look of approval. Lei Bo, there is no need to lower yourself to the same level as this foul-mouthed little brat. The Patriarch is a wise man. I know that his decision will be fair and partial. Elder, I obviously know that the Patriarch is a wise man, but that little brat who regards himself as a genius is just too insolent. If I came across him during the elite disciple exam, I would definitely kill him. Lei Bo said to Mo Xie. They both said that Nan Gongling was a wise man to flatter him. If Nan Gongling punished Mo Xie, then obviously this would be the actions of a fool. I see that Mo Xie raised many stray dogs. No wonder that he is respected by so many and allows himself to murder so many disciples of the sect. Lin Feng's words were extremely sharp. He was looking at Mo Xie in a mocking way. Lei Bo had wanted to protect Mo Xie and he was about to pay the price for it. What a filthy mouth. Mo Xie cursed at Lin Feng and glanced at Lei Bo, indicating that he was happy to receive his help. Patriarch, I, Lei Bo, am an open-minded and kind-hearted person, but Lin Feng has insulted and humiliated me. He called me a stray dog. He's an animal. I would like to challenge him to a battle in the life and death arena. I hope that Patriarch has no objection. Lei Bo was furious and asked Nan Gongling for permission to challenge Lin Feng. Nan Gongling frowned. Lei Bo was ranked 21st and he had already broken through to the third Ling Qi layer. He was extremely powerful within the elite disciples. Even a cultivator of the second Ling Qi layer could never compete with him. Even though Lin Feng was extremely masterful when using his sword, the cultivation gap between them was gigantic. It would be too dangerous for Lin Feng to fight against him with only the first Ling Qi layer. When Nan Gongling was about to refuse, Lin Feng started speaking. Patriarch, I am an open-minded and kind-hearted person, but Mo Xie humiliated and bullied me. Then this little stray doggy of his dares say I have a filthy mouth. There is no need for him to ask the Patriarch for permission to battle against me. Let's just do it. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at Nan Gongling in an indifferent way. Lin Feng was so confident with his words that Nan Gongling's heart started to beat faster. Could it be that Lin Feng had hidden his real strength? When Nan Gongling thought that Lin Feng may have hidden his true strength, he became really curious to see and couldn't help but say, I allow you to battle. Thank you, Patriarch, said Lei Bo while looking at Nan Gongling, who actually seemed to be really excited. He then moved towards the central fighting stage and climbed up onto it. He was then facing Lin Feng. This battle is a life and death battle. We both need to put our lives at stake. The Patriarch said it himself. Lin Feng, today everybody will see you die like a dog. Lei Bo said these words in an aggressive tone as if he feared that Nan Gongling would go back in his words concerning the life and death battles. Lin Feng's words before were very aggressive. Mo Xie was unable to get out of this extremely embarrassing and awkward situation. If Lei Bo was able to kill Lin Feng, then Mo Xie would take him as his personal disciples and help him improve his cultivation. You are very confident. Of course. You just became an elite disciple. You're just a little brat. You may have natural abilities and a high potential, but in front of me, a cultivator of the third Ling Qi layer, you are just too weak. I will not even need to release my spirit to kill you. When Lei Bo finished talking, a strong qi was released from his body. It was so extremely powerful that the audience could feel the pressure from him releasing it. His body started releasing sparks into the air and even the dust that approached him exploded. As he moved, the sound of thunder roared from his body. The difference between a cultivator of the first and the third Ling Qi layer was colossal. Even a genius couldn't compete with a much stronger cultivator. Even if Lin Feng had mastered sword forces, it was still impossible for him to win. I can tell you, my spirit is a thunder spirit. I am as strong as thunder itself. My attacks are extremely powerful and quick. But you will not have the honor to see me release my spirit. Lei Bo held his right hand up in the air. It started diffusing a dazzling light. It looked like he was using something extremely powerful. Possessors of a thunder spirit could carry out extremely strong attacks. Besides, each of their attacks was incredibly swift and skillful. Lei Bo hadn't broken through to the third Ling Qi layer for a long time and already had his name on the elite disciple ranking. He was ranked 21st, but he would soon be ranked 20th. 8 strikes of desolation. Lin Feng didn't feel like talking to Lei Bo much longer. He thrust out his hand and 6 powerful strikes shot toward Lei Bo. Lei Bo smiled coldly. Lin Feng's 6 strikes, at the moment when they had crashed into his thunder attack, disintegrated themselves in the blink of an eye. Force. Lin Feng took a step forward and an extremely powerful sword force began to invade the entire atmosphere. The atmosphere was absorbed by the sword chi and the sword force completely. He thrust his hand out again and another 6 strikes emerged and shot towards Lei Bo. But Lin Feng clearly knew that these attacks wouldn't affect Lei Bo too much. He suddenly dashed forward with incredible speed and a whistling sound quickly spread throughout the air. The entire atmosphere was filled with sword chi and sword force as if his sword was the only thing which mattered in the entire arena. What was even scarier is that the sword force was getting more and more powerful as it absorbed the energy around it. The sword force was even stronger than what he had used to kill the other 5 ranked elite disciples. An incredible force started oppressing Lei Bo's body. Lei Bo had the feeling that he was being strangled and could hardly breathe. It was very painful as if his bones were about to be crushed from the pressure. Second Ling Chi layer. Lei Bo was stupefied, and he then shouted, "You are not at the first Ling Chi layer, you are at the second Ling Chi layer." The entire crowd was stupefied. Lin Feng had, once again, hidden his real strength. What a monstrous power. Not so long before, there was almost nobody who knew who Lin Feng was. In a very short time, Lin Feng had repeatedly made a display of his abilities and was now at the center of everyone's attention. Now with his mastery of forces coupled with his strength of the second Ling Chi layer, he was definitely able to compete with a cultivator of the third Ling Chi layer. No wonder he had accepted to fight against Lei Bo without hesitation. That young man is really a genius in the speed at which he learns and masters skills. Nan Gongling felt like his body had gone numb. He still remembered the first time he had met Lin Feng. Lin Feng was still at the Chi layer. He was so weak. Even Lin Qian of the Hao Yu sect could humiliate him back in those days. In such a short time, he had become so strong. Lin Feng had broken through to the Ling Chi layer and had killed 5 ranked elite disciples. At this moment, he was battling against a cultivator of the third Ling Chi layer and it looked like he had a great advantage over his opponent. "You just talk shit. You are too weak to be my opponent." Lin Feng started moving so fast that it looked like he had disappeared. His sword tore through Lei Bo's clothes and Lei Bo felt an intense pain as if his flesh was being split apart piece by piece. The sword force was terrifying. It was the first time that Lei Bo felt such a strong force. He was terrified. "Die!" shouted Lei Bo. Thunderous roars started unceasingly spreading throughout the atmosphere and as they collided with the sword chi they started releasing sparks. It looked like an incredible storm was being released from Lei Bo's body. Lin Feng thrust his palm forward. 8 strikes of desolation. A terrifying attack was launched from Lin Feng's palm. His strikes were so powerful that they consumed the sky and covered the whole arena with a domineering power. Divine thunder. Lei Bo shouted extremely loudly and suddenly an extremely powerful thunderous roar came out of his hand and started bombarding the atmosphere. The whole crowd was blinded by the sight of such a powerful attack. It seemed like the deadly power contained within that lightning was endless. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared as it struck against Lin Feng's 8 strikes. Sword unsheathing. Lin Feng's strikes hadn't fully disappeared yet and his sword was already overflowing with an endless amount of sword force. Sword unsheathing was a skill which required the utmost speed. The quicker it was, the more explosive its power was. It was a truly terrifying attack. Lin Feng's sword force was extremely powerful as it pierced through the atmosphere and consumed everything in its path. Divine thunder of wrath. Lei Bo shouted extremely loudly and looked like his entire body was becoming a thunderstorm. Both his hands raised to strike against the atmosphere with all the power contained within a thunderstorm. Boom! The thunders collided with the sword chi and the sword force. A dazzling light blinded the entire crowd and a scorching heat rushed outwards from the collision. The power of the shockwave was so strong that it would sting the disciples' skin and they couldn't even open their eyes. Lei Bo felt an incredibly intense and sharp pain come from his body. He would have never thought that Lin Feng could be this powerful. What terrified him was that the sword force contained within each of his strikes was growing stronger each time. That sword was surrounded by an incredible amount of sword force. Not only was it not weakening but it was also growing stronger, which gave Lei Bo the impression that he was going to collapse under the weight of the sword force. End of chapter 80. Hope you guys enjoy the chapters, and a thumbs up is appreciated.